Imagine yourself somewhere in China that remains untouched by the rush of cameras, places so quiet that even the wind seems hesitant to speak. If you look at China from above, it stretches across more than 9.5 million square miles, encompassing deserts, rainforests, towering mountains, and endless rivers. But what fascinates me is not the grand scale, the numbers, or the monuments. It is the forgotten pockets within that vastness, the places that survived invasions, dynasties, revolutions, and modern construction, yet remain unspoken. There are corners of this land that hold mysteries layered like brushstrokes on an ancient scroll, where every color is a story and every shadow is a secret. Welcome to China, where hidden places become real, where secrets of China are finally revealed. Take for instance the remote valleys of Guizhou Province. The Miaoandong villages here are unlike the bustling tourist towns you might imagine. Many of these settlements are nestled between mountains that still resist modern roads. To reach them, you walk along narrow trails carved centuries ago, the kind where each step on damp earth echoes like a memory. Wooden stilt houses rise above rivers, their black tiled roofs glistening with mist in the mornings. In some of these places, the people still follow rhythms that predate electricity. At night, the only light comes from flickering oil lamps or the reflection of the moon on water. It is in such silence that you begin to feel how old these traditions are. Ancient songs sung in polyphonic harmony, carrying stories that cannot be traced to a single author. These villages are hidden not because they want to be forgotten, but because they have never sought to be discovered. For centuries, their way of life has been their protection, and walking through them feels less like observing and more like being allowed into a secret. Further to the north, beyond the stretches of Inner Mongolia, lies another type of hidden world. The Badiane-Jiran Desert is often overshadowed by the Gobi, yet within its expanse lies a paradox. Towering sand dunes, some of the highest on Earth, standing beside more than 100 freshwater lakes. The dunes rise like golden mountains, sculpted by wind, some reaching heights of over 500 meters. Yet hidden within their shadows are oases so still and clear, they reflect the sky with perfect precision. These lakes, fed by underground springs, are sacred to the nomads who roam these lands. They believe each one holds a spirit, and to disturb them carelessly is to invite misfortune. Few travelers venture deep into the desert to find them, and those who do often speak of the haunting sound the dunes make, a low, resonant hum when sand shifts under the wind, almost as if the earth itself is speaking. Standing there caught between endless sand and sudden water, you realize how vast and unpredictable China's hidden landscapes truly are. There are also secrets beneath the surface, places hidden not by distance but by darkness, in Guangxi and Yunnan. Underground worlds of limestone stretch for miles, entire labyrinths of caves carved by rivers over millions of years. Many of these caverns are so remote or so difficult to access that they remain unmapped. Local legends say spirits inhabit them, and villagers often leave offerings at their mouths, a gesture of respect for what lies inside. Within the shadows are stalactites that shimmer faintly with mineral deposits, and underground rivers whose origins remain unexplored. Scientists who have managed to enter some of these caves have found rare blind fish and shrimp, species that have never seen daylight. Imagine standing in such a cavern, your lantern barely illuminating the walls, the silence pressing down with the weight of 1,000 years. It is a hidden China beneath the visible one, a reminder that not all secrets are above ground. And then there are the mountains. Everyone knows of the Yellow Mountain, or Mount Everest at the border, but few speak of the Wuling Yuan region in Hunan. Here thousands of quartzite sandstone pillars rise from the earth like ancient guardians, some taller than skyscrapers, shrouded in mist that drifts lazily across the valley floors. Many who visit Zhangjiajie, a part of this region, recognize it as the inspiration for floating mountains in films. But beyond the famous viewpoints, deeper within the forested gorges, there are pillars no one photographs, places where silence reigns, and where you feel like a trespasser in a landscape not meant to be shared. It is in these forgotten corners, away from the crowds, that you encounter the true essence of China's hidden wonders. The air smells of moss and stone, birds circle above cliffs, and time itself seems suspended. In these moments, the world narrows to nothing but you and the breath of nature. These are only glimpses, the first steps into a journey that will take us deeper into China's most secret places. What fascinates me most is not only their beauty, but the way they persist, untouched, unspeaking, and often unrecognized. They are testaments to the idea that even in a country so vast, so well-trodden, there are still places no one talks about, and it is here, in the spaces between silence and discovery, that we begin to understand the soul of China, not as a tourist map, but as a living, breathing mystery. This journey is not about checking locations off a list, but about letting these hidden places reveal themselves slowly, like an old story told by someone who trusts you enough to share it. As we move forward, I invite you to linger with me, to breathe a little slower, and to see the unseen. When you think of China's rivers, the Yangtze and the Yellow River usually come to mind, vast currents that carved civilizations into being. But hidden between these great waterways are lesser-known veins of water that hold their own secrets. The Nujiang River, for example, flows through one of the most remote valleys in Yunnan province. It cuts between steep cliffs, creating a gorge that remains among the least developed areas in the entire country. Unlike the Yangtze, which has dams and bustling ports, the Nujiang Valley resists modern intrusion. Villages cling to the slopes, their terraces glowing green during planting season, while mist rises each dawn, cloaking the valley in shifting veils. It is a landscape that humbles you, wild, untamed, and alive with stories. Few outsiders come here, and those who do often remark that the river feels like a guardian, flowing steadily as it has for millions of years, protecting the cultures that live beside it. Travelers who venture into this gorge often discover traditions preserved almost intact. The Lisu people, for instance, continue to weave their lives around ancient rhythms. They build suspension bridges from vines, swaying crossings that test your balance as the river roars below. Each village has its own rituals tied to the seasons, ceremonies where music echoes from bamboo flutes and chants carry across the cliffs. It feels as though the valley itself amplifies the sound, folding it back into the mountains. These customs are not performed for audiences or tourists. They are lived, repeated year after year with sincerity. To witness them is to be reminded that not all traditions seek recognition. Some survive precisely because they remain hidden, passed quietly through generations without ever being placed under bright lights. This is one of the reasons why the Nujiang Valley remains one of China's most authentic secrets. Further west, near the border with Tibet, lies another hidden sanctuary, the Meili Snow Mountains. Their highest peak, Kawajibo, rises to over 6,700 meters, yet remains unclimbed. Local belief holds that the mountain is sacred, the dwelling place of protective deities, and every attempt to conquer it has ended in tragedy or retreat. Unlike other peaks around the world, this one is not defined by conquest but by reverence. Pilgrims still circle its base, walking arduous routes in prayer, believing that each step cleanses the soul. In winter, when snow veils the ridges and clouds weave between peaks, the entire range feels like a vision painted in white and silver. Few outsiders reach these mountains, and those who do often describe the silence as overwhelming, the kind that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. In the untouched air, where human ambition yields to sacred restraint, the Meili Range remains one of China's most awe-inspiring and hidden treasures. China's hidden places are not always grand landscapes. Sometimes they are quiet relics of history, tucked away in places where no one expects to find them. In the hills of Fujian Province, for example, stand the Tulu, massive earthen structures built by the Hakka people centuries ago, circular, fortress-like, and rising several stories high. They were designed to protect entire clans. From outside, they appear as colossal, unadorned walls, yet inside, they open into bustling courtyards surrounded by wooden balconies, kitchens, and living spaces. Many of these Tulu are still inhabited today, their interiors echoing with laughter, meals, and daily life. They remain hidden not because they are unknown, but because they are remote, far from highways or airports. Visitors who stumble upon them often describe the feeling of stepping into a time capsule, a place where walls have absorbed centuries of stories and where life continues at its own pace, unbothered by the modern rush. Equally hidden are the forgotten temples scattered across remote mountains. Not every sacred site in China is a tourist destination. Countless shrines and monasteries remain tucked away on cliffs, accessible only by narrow paths that test the will of any visitor. In Sichuan's Amei Range, for instance, trails lead to wooden temples where only monks reside, their prayers blending with the wind and the call of distant birds. At dawn, incense smoke curls into the mist, and bells echo faintly across valleys. These are places where time feels suspended, where the devotion of a few has kept traditions alive for centuries. To stand in such a place is to realize that spirituality here is not about spectacle, but about persistence, about small flames kept burning in silence. They remind you that some of the deepest truths are found not in grandeur, but in quiet endurance. And then, there are the places that almost resist definition, landscapes so peculiar they feel otherworldly. In the remote reaches of Xinjiang, the Yardang landforms stretch for miles, sculpted by relentless winds into bizarre shapes. Some resemble castles, others ships or creatures frozen in motion. Local legends say these are ruins left by spirits, petrified as punishment for their pride. When the sun sets, shadows lengthen across the formations, and the desert takes on an eerie glow. It is a place of silence so absolute that even your own footsteps feel intrusive. Few people ever reach these landforms, partly because of their remoteness and partly because of the harsh conditions. Yet those who do often describe the sensation as stepping into another world, one that belongs neither to past nor present, but to something timeless. It is in landscapes like these that China reveals its strangest, most secret face, one that defies both words and expectations. If you journey eastward toward Zhejiang Province, away from the sprawling cities and coastal harbors, you'll find yourself drawn into an entirely different world, a landscape carved by rivers and hidden by bamboo forests. The ancient village of Wuyuan, often referred to as one of the most picturesque in China, remains concealed among rolling hills. Unlike modern towns where glass and steel dominate, Huiyuan's beauty lies in its whitewashed walls, black-tiled roofs and stone bridges that arch gracefully over quiet streams. In spring, fields of rapeseed flowers transform the valleys into seas of yellow, and the mist that hangs above the hills softens everything into a dreamlike haze. But beyond the surface beauty lies a deeper story. This area once lay at the heart of China's old merchant networks, where salt and tea were traded along narrow routes. Today, it feels more like a living museum, not curated or artificial, but still breathing, as villagers rise at dawn to draw water from wells and return at dusk carrying baskets of herbs or firewood. To walk these streets is to step into an older rhythm, one the modern world rarely remembers. South of here, tucked deep into Anhui's mountains, lies another treasure that often escapes notice: the hidden villages of Hongcun and Shidi. These settlements, with their winding lanes and traditional Hui architecture, look like ink paintings come alive. Water runs through carefully designed channels, reflecting centuries-old houses and courtyards. What makes them secret is not their obscurity on maps. They are recognized as heritage sites, but the way they hold their atmosphere even now, when much of the outside world has transformed. Artists come here to study the interplay of light and shadow across whitewashed walls, but beyond the aesthetics lies an environment that still nurtures rituals, seasonal festivals, and community gatherings that bind neighbors together. Walking through these villages at dawn, hearing roosters crow, and watching the first traces of smoke rise from chimneys, you understand that their secret lies not in grand monuments but in the survival of ordinary life, untouched by haste. Hidden places are not always villages or landscapes. Sometimes they are islands, barely marked on maps. Take Shenxi, part of the Zhoushan archipelago in the East China Sea. Here, an abandoned fishing village lies swallowed by ivy, its stone houses draped in green like ruins of a forgotten civilization. Decades ago, fishermen left these islands in search of better opportunities, and nature quietly reclaimed what they left behind. Today, the buildings stand as hollow shells, their doorways framed by twisting vines, windows darkened by leaves. It feels less like decay and more like transformation, as if the island itself decided to breathe life back into stone. Few people ever make the long ferry ride to Shenxi, but those who wander its quiet paths often describe it as walking through a dream where human ambition is erased and only nature remains. In silence, you realize that sometimes the world's most powerful beauty is found not in what we build, but in what we leave behind. Further inland, in the heart of Guizhou, there lies a world hidden not by distance, but by the earth itself. The Jijin Cave, one of the largest karst caverns in China, stretches for more than 13 kilometers underground. Inside are chambers vast enough to house entire cathedrals, filled with stalactites and stalagmites in shapes so intricate they defy easy description. Scientists have studied the formations, noting how minerals accumulate drop by drop over millennia. But when you stand within the cave, facts dissolve into wonder. Light barely reaches some corners, and shadows play across columns that look like frozen waterfalls. The silence here is profound, broken only by the occasional drip of water echoing into the darkness. Few travelers see this cave compared to China's famous attractions, and those who do often leave humbled, as if they had entered the hidden heart of the earth itself. But perhaps the most secret places are those shaped not only by nature, but by time's quiet persistence. In remote corners of Shanxi province stand the ancient grottos of Tianlongshan. Carved into cliffs centuries ago, these Buddhist caves once held thousands of statues and murals, many of which have been lost or taken abroad. Yet the atmosphere remains. Weathered stone faces still gaze out over valleys, and fragments of painted walls tell stories of devotion that once filled the chambers. To reach them requires patience, traveling along winding roads that climb into the mountains. When you finally stand there, among the silence of worn statues and empty alcoves, you realize these grottos are less about what survives physically and more about the presence that lingers. It is a reminder that hidden places are not always intact or untouched. Sometimes their power lies in the traces they leave behind, whispers of belief echoing long after voices have faded. And in the northwest, deep in the deserts of Xinjiang, there is yet another kind of hidden world, the ruined city of Gaochang. Once a thriving Silk Road hub, its walls and streets now lie silent under the scorching sun. Few tourists reach it, and when you walk among its crumbling foundations, you feel the weight of centuries pressing in. The wind whistles through empty arches, carrying the scent of dust and salt. You imagine caravans arriving here, their camels laden with silk, spices and stories, and you sense the absence left behind when trade shifted, when empires rose and fell. Gaochang is not hidden because it is unknown, but because the desert slowly reclaims it, reminding us that even the greatest centers of life can vanish into silence. To stand here is to feel time stretch endlessly in both directions, a reminder that hidden wonders are not just about beauty, but about the impermanence that binds all things. In the far reaches of Tibet, beyond the well-known monasteries and pilgrimage routes, lies a lake that seems almost too unreal to be true. It is called Nampso, the Heavenly Lake, perched more than 4,700 meters above sea level. The waters stretch so wide they appear like a fragment of the sky fallen onto the earth, shimmering in shades of turquoise that shift with the passing clouds. Mountains crowned with snow encircle its edges, and in the silence the only sounds are the cries of migratory birds or the low chant of pilgrims who circle its shores in prayer. While many lakes in Tibet attract attention, Nampso remains hidden by its remoteness, its harsh winds, and the altitude that makes even breathing a conscious act. To sit by its waters is to feel small, not diminished but humbled, as if standing on the edge of something infinite. It is one of those places where words feel inadequate, and silence becomes the truest form of understanding. Hidden among these high plateaus are villages that seem carved from another time. The people here live with a rhythm dictated not by clocks, but by the sky. Yak herders move with the seasons, guiding their animals across vast grasslands, setting up tents that disappear with the same swiftness they appear. Stories of deities, mountain spirits, and ancient kings are still told around fires at night, their voices carrying into the darkness as stars burn with impossible clarity overhead. Outsiders who visit often remark that time itself feels different here, slower, stretched. It is not just the altitude that makes you lightheaded, but the realization that human life in these hidden corners continues much as it did centuries ago. In a world so quick to change, to move forward, here lies the secret of continuity, a way of life unbroken, where survival and spirituality intertwine in ways few outsiders can truly grasp. Travel further into Sichuan, and you'll find another landscape that hides itself behind layers of mist, Jiuzhaigou Valley. Though now more accessible, there are still corners of this valley few ever see. Beyond the popular lakes with their vivid blue and green hues, deeper in the reserve lie hidden waterfalls and untouched forests where pandas once roamed freely. The valley itself was shaped by glacial activity, leaving behind terraced lakes and cascading streams that look like steps of crystal. Local Tibetan legends say the lakes were formed when a goddess dropped a mirror, which shattered into pieces that became these pools. In the quieter areas where visitors rarely venture, you hear only the trickle of water and the rustle of leaves. It feels almost enchanted, as though the valley holds its most intimate beauty away from the crowds, showing it only to those willing to wander further and wait longer. In these still moments, Jiuzhaigou reveals itself as more than a destination. It becomes a reminder that nature does not reveal all its secrets at once. Far to the east, in Jiangxi province, there exists another secret, Mount Sanqing. While some peaks in China are celebrated in paintings and poetry, Sanqing remains more reserved, its granite spires rising like the fingers of hidden gods. The mountain is named after the Taoist Trinity, and for centuries it has been regarded as a sacred site. Trails weave through forests and past waterfalls, leading to temples balanced on sheer cliffs where monks still chant in solitude. In the mornings, clouds roll in, transforming the entire range into a sea of mist through which only the tallest peaks pierce, like islands floating above an ocean. Unlike the famous Yellow Mountain, Sanqing is quieter, less traveled, and yet it holds an atmosphere that feels almost more profound. To stand among its peaks is to sense the merging of earth and sky, of stone and spirit, and to realize that hiddenness sometimes protects a place's soul from being diluted. China's hidden wonders also lie within its waters. Off the southern coast, near Hainan Island, are coral reefs few ever speak of. These reefs are vibrant ecosystems teeming with life, yet they remain largely unvisited, overshadowed by the island's resorts and beaches. Beneath the waves, forests of coral branch out like underwater cities, sheltering schools of fish that glitter like fragments of light. Sea turtles glide slowly, and reef sharks patrol in silence, completing a circle of life unseen by most. These reefs are fragile, vulnerable to changes in temperature and human interference, and yet they continue to thrive in pockets shielded by geography. To dive here is to enter another hidden China, one where beauty is not carved from stone or written into history, but grown silently in the rhythms of the sea. It reminds us that not all wonders are meant to be gazed at from above. Some exist only for those willing to submerge themselves into another world. Yet perhaps the most unexpected hidden places are those shaped by myths, where stories and landscapes are inseparably bound. In Guangxi, the karst mountains form silhouettes so striking they have inspired centuries of poetry and painting. Among them lies dragon backbone rice terraces, where slopes have been sculpted into layers that ripple across hillsides like the scales of a dragon. The terraces are still tended by local farmers who follow seasonal cycles, planting and harvesting by hand. At dawn, when mist drifts through the valleys, the terraces shine with reflected light, glowing like a living creature. Visitors who rise early enough to see this often describe it as an encounter with something both natural and mythical, as if the mountains themselves hold a secret pulse. It is in these moments that hidden China feels most alive, not just as geography but as a living story, where land and legend breathe together. High in the remote reaches of Qinghai, where the Tibetan plateau stretches into a horizon that seems without end, lies Qinghai Lake. On maps it looks vast, but standing by its shore reveals a scale that humbles the senses. A turquoise expanse that meets the sky with no clear boundary. Despite being the largest lake in China, Qinghai is strangely hidden from the world, isolated by distance and by the quiet dignity of its surroundings. The air is thin, and the wind never stops moving across the surface, carrying with it the calls of migratory birds that rest here each summer. Pilgrims often circle the lake on foot or bicycle, believing that each circuit purifies the spirit. To walk along its edges is to feel time stretch thin, as though you are no longer bound by days or hours, but by the endless rhythm of water and wind. The silence here is not empty but alive, carrying the weight of centuries in every ripple. Not far from Qinghai Lake lies another hidden marvel, the Chaka Salt Lake, sometimes called the mirror of the sky. Its surface reflects the clouds so perfectly that it blurs the line between earth and heaven. Visitors who arrive on still days often find themselves disoriented, as if they are walking on the sky itself. The lake has been mined for centuries, yet it retains a mystical quality that feels untouchable. Standing there at dawn, with the first light spilling across the mountains and mirrored back by the lake's surface, you begin to understand why locals regard it as sacred. It is not merely a landscape, but an encounter, a meeting point between the human and the infinite. Few people outside of China know of this place, yet those who wander here often describe it as one of the most surreal experiences of their lives. Hidden by distance and overshadowed by larger names, it remains a secret for those willing to travel further. If you move southeast into Yunnan, another hidden landscape reveals itself, the stone forest of Shilin. Towering limestone pillars, some as tall as 30 meters, rise from the ground like a petrified forest. The formations were sculpted by water and wind over millions of years, yet they stand now like monuments built by an ancient civilization. Walking among them feels like stepping into a labyrinth of stone, where narrow passages twist unexpectedly and the air cools with every turn. Local Sani people tell legends of how the forest was formed. Stories of gods and lovers turned to stone, giving the landscape a mythical dimension. Although sections of Shilin are known, its deeper reaches remain quiet, away from visitors, where birds nest among crevices and silence reigns. To stand alone in such a place is to feel the enormity of geological time pressing down, a reminder that nature's artistry predates us all and waits quietly to be rediscovered. Even more concealed are the canyons of Gansu Province, where the Yellow River has carved landscapes rarely seen by outsiders. Bingo Dansha, overshadowed by its more famous sibling Zhangye Dansha, holds rock formations in hues of red, orange, and gold that glow like fire at sunset. Unlike the crowded paths of Zhangye, Bingo remains almost deserted, its silence broken only by the wind. The cliffs here rise in strange, angular shapes, resembling towers and fortresses built by unseen hands. Few photographs capture their essence, and fewer still convey the solitude one feels while standing at their base. It is in these forgotten corners that you realize how much of China's beauty lies not in what is celebrated, but in what is left in silence. The rocks themselves seem to speak a language of patience, reminding us that hidden wonders are often preserved precisely because they are overlooked. In the humid south, another secret waits in the mountains of Guangxi, the Reed Flute Cave, a vast underground chamber lit by the glow of mineral formations. While sections have been explored, countless passages extend further, some too narrow or dangerous to follow. The cave is named for the reeds that grow outside, used for flutes by locals, and perhaps it is fitting that the cave itself feels like a song in stone. Stalactites hang like frozen rain, and stalagmites rise like columns in an ancient hall, some glittering faintly as if dusted with stars. Legends tell of immortals hiding treasures here, and the air itself feels heavy with myth. Though some chambers are lit for visitors, the true depths remain untouched, silent realms of darkness that few will ever see. It is in this balance between the known and the unknown that the cave holds its allure, a hidden world beneath the world we think we know. And finally, there are places hidden not by geography, but by endurance. In Henan Province stands the ancient city of Kaifeng, once the capital of several dynasties. Today, much of its glory is buried beneath layers of earth and time, submerged by repeated floods of the Yellow River. Archaeologists say entire streets, temples, and palaces lie hidden underground, preserved by silt and sediment. Walking through modern Kaifeng, you would never guess that beneath your feet lies a city of the past, waiting in silence. Excavations reveal fragments, a tiled roof here, a carved stone there, each whispering of an era when Kaifeng was one of the world's largest and most vibrant cities. This hidden city is not remote or isolated, but lies beneath the bustle of daily life, unseen yet profoundly present. It is a reminder that sometimes the greatest secrets are not in distant mountains or deserts, but directly beneath us, layered into the very ground we walk on. In the deep folds of Yunnan Province lies a valley so secluded that it is often called the last secret land of the East, the Nujiang Grand Canyon, also known as the Grand Canyon of the Orient. Unlike its American counterpart, this gorge remains mostly unvisited, its cliffs sheer and dramatic, cut by a river that churns with relentless energy. To stand at its edge is to look down into a world of green forests and silver streams, so deep that sunlight touches the bottom only briefly each day. Ethnic minority villages dot the high ridges, their wooden homes balanced delicately above a void of stone and water. The remoteness of the canyon has kept modernity at bay. Traditions survive here not because of preservation efforts, but because geography itself has made intrusion difficult. When you hear the distant sound of drums during a festival echoing through the cliffs, it feels like the canyon itself is alive, beating with the pulse of history. Hidden among the folds of these mountains are sacred paths that pilgrims have walked for centuries. Along the ancient Tea-Horse Road, narrow trails snake across ridges and plunge into valleys, once traveled by caravans carrying bricks of tea bound for Tibet. The road is overgrown in many places, reclaimed by forests and silence, but fragments of stone steps still remain. To walk along them is to feel the weight of countless journeys, merchants and monks who braved storms, bandits, and exhaustion to keep trade and culture flowing between distant worlds. Today, the path is quiet, and you can imagine yourself alone, hearing only your breath and the rustle of leaves. It is not the grandeur of the Silk Road, but something more intimate, a hidden thread of history woven into the mountains, whispering stories to those who care to listen. Even deeper within the Yunnan highlands lies a place that seems like a dream, Shangri-La, once known as Zhongdian. The name itself was borrowed from fiction, yet the reality of this hidden town matches the vision. A valley framed by snow peaks, where Tibetan culture flourishes in monasteries and wooden homes painted in bright colors. Outside the town lies Songzanlin Monastery, a sprawling complex built on a hillside, its golden roofs shining against the sky. What makes this place secret is not its existence but its atmosphere. Despite being touched by tourism in recent years, the quiet streets, the prayer flags fluttering in the wind, and the distant chanting of monks give it a timelessness that resists full exposure. When dawn breaks and the mist lifts slowly from the fields, you feel as though you are watching a story unfold, one that belongs not to a single moment but to centuries layered together. Far to the west in Xinjiang lies another secret, one hidden not by forests or valleys, but by the desert itself. The Kumtag Desert stretches endlessly, but scattered within its dunes are oases so small and unexpected they feel like mirages. Some support entire communities, sustained by underground springs that emerge briefly before vanishing back into the sand. Others are visited only by migrating birds, appearing like jewels in a barren sea. Travelers who reach these places often speak of the silence that surrounds them, a silence so complete it presses against the skin. In the evenings, when the sun dips low and the dunes turn from gold to purple to black, the desert transforms into a world of shadows and stars. These oases remain unspoken in guidebooks, but for those who stumble upon them, they are reminders that even in the harshest environments, life and mystery persist side by side. Hidden places also lie within China's forests, where few roads penetrate. In the subtropical wilderness of Xishuangbanna, thick jungles conceal species found nowhere else on Earth. Here, wild elephants roam, their trails cutting through bamboo thickets, and gibbons swing between towering trees. The forest canopy is so dense that daylight filters through in fractured beams, and the air is heavy with the scent of orchids and damp earth. Within these jungles live the Dai people, whose traditions are woven seamlessly into the landscape. Wooden stilt houses built above rivers, rituals tied to water and rain, and annual festivals where lanterns float into the sky like stars. Though Xishuangbanna is known to some, its most secret corners remain inaccessible, preserved by the forest itself. To wander here is to feel the weight of life in its rawest form, a reminder that hidden wonders are not always still and silent, but vibrant and untamed. And then there are the mountains that rise like guardians, rarely spoken of, yet shaping the land around them. The Tian Shan Range in Xinjiang holds valleys that few outsiders have ever entered, where glaciers glisten under a fierce sun and alpine meadows bloom with wildflowers. Among them lies Heavenly Lake, a high-altitude jewel encircled by snow peaks, its waters so clear they reflect both the sky and the mountains. Local Kazakh herders still bring their flocks to these pastures in summer, setting up yurts that dot the green slopes. At night, the air grows cold and stars burn with impossible brilliance, undisturbed by city lights. These mountains have been revered for millennia, their very name meaning celestial mountains, yet many of their valleys remain unexplored. Standing here, breathing in the thin, crisp air, you realize that China's most secret places are not always hidden deliberately. Sometimes they are simply too vast, too wild, and too sacred to ever be fully known. Deep within Sichuan province lies a landscape both dramatic and secretive, a place known only to those who seek beyond the obvious. It is called Heiluogo Glacier Valley, where massive sheets of ancient ice slide silently down the eastern face of Mount Gongga, the highest peak in Sichuan. Unlike the well-known glaciers of the Himalayas, this one remains hidden behind mist and forests, reached only after long treks through cedar groves and rhododendron meadows. The glacier itself is alive with cracks and creeks, its blue heart visible in fissures where sunlight touches the ice. Standing before it, you feel the immense force of time, ice that has endured for millennia, moving imperceptibly but surely, carving valleys and carrying secrets within its frozen depths. Few travelers reach Heiluogo, and those who do often describe the sensation as standing before an ancient being, silent and patient, whose story stretches far beyond human memory. Further north, in Shanxi province, there is another secret place, hidden not by nature, but by stone and devotion. The hanging monastery of Henshan clings to a cliff face as if suspended between earth and sky. Built more than 1,500 years ago, it is a structure that defies logic. Its wooden halls balanced on beams driven directly into the rock. The monastery blends three belief systems, Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, into a single sanctuary, its chambers echoing with centuries of prayer. To climb the narrow steps and enter its shadowed rooms is to step into a space where time bends. The wind rushes through the gorge, rattling beams that have somehow resisted storms, earthquakes, and wars. While the monastery is known in name, the deeper experience of standing within it, feeling the mountain itself hold the weight of faith, remains one of China's most overlooked secrets. It is not simply a building, but a declaration of persistence against both nature and time. In the eastern reaches of Gansu, another hidden wonder lies underfoot, the Mogao Caves of Dunhuang. While scholars know of their priceless murals and statues, few truly grasp the immensity of the complex. Nearly 500 caves carved into cliffs along the old Silk Road, filled with Buddhist art spanning 1,000 years. Yet what makes them secret is not their scale but their silence. Many of the caves remain closed, preserved in darkness to protect fragile pigments that still glow with impossible brilliance when revealed. Inside, Buddhas sit in meditation, celestial beings swirl across painted skies, and stories of compassion and enlightenment unfold on stone walls. Standing in such a chamber, lit only by a faint glow, you realize these caves are more than art. They are voices of faith carved into stone. Their hiddenness is not accidental but protective, ensuring that these whispers from the past survive to speak to those willing to listen in hushed reverence. To the northeast, in Heilongjiang, lies a natural secret shaped by fire and ice. The Wudalianchi volcanic area is home to a chain of volcanic lakes formed by eruptions centuries ago. Unlike the crowded landscapes of more famous parks, Wudalianchi feels remote, its black lava fields stretching into silence, broken only by the shimmering surfaces of crater lakes. The water here is said to have healing properties, rich in minerals, and local traditions tell of spirits that guard the land. Standing on the edge of one of these lakes at dusk, the reflection of stars on its surface mirrors the sparks of old volcanic fire buried beneath. It is a place where destruction gave birth to beauty, where landscapes born of violence now rest in quiet dignity. Few people ever make the journey this far north, and yet the reward for those who do is an encounter with one of China's most understated but profound natural wonders. In Jiangsu, far from mountains and deserts, there is a quieter hidden world. The ancient water towns along the Yangtze Delta. While some, like Zhouzhuang, have gained fame, others remain largely untouched. Towns such as Tongli and Luji preserve networks of canals, stone bridges, and whitewashed homes that seem frozen in time. Wooden boats glide silently through narrow waterways, their reflections mingling with lantern light as dusk settles. The scent of tea drifts from small courtyards, and old men sit by the water's edge, playing chess under willow trees. These towns are not hidden by geography, but by modern distraction, overshadowed by Shanghai's neon and Nanjing's history. Yet within them, life continues quietly, flowing with the canals, unchanged by centuries. To walk their cobbled paths at night is to feel as though you are drifting back into a world where time has slowed, where water and stone tell stories in whispers instead of shouts. But perhaps one of the most extraordinary hidden places in China lies high above the clouds, where human ambition and faith meet the impossible. Mount Kailash, revered by Buddhists, Hindus, Jains, and followers of Bon, is considered the axis of the world, a peak so sacred that it has never been climbed. Rising to over 6,600 meters, its pyramid-like summit stands isolated, gleaming white against the sky. Pilgrims journey from across Asia to walk the Kora, a 52-kilometer circuit around the mountain, believing that each step brings spiritual purification. Unlike Everest or other peaks sought for conquest, Kailash resists such ambitions, its sanctity protecting it from intrusion. Few places embody the sense of mystery and reverence as strongly as this mountain. It is hidden not by remoteness alone, but by the silence it demands, a silence that humbles all who approach. Standing in its shadow, you realize that some wonders remain unseen, not because they are forgotten, but because they are meant to remain untouchable. In the far reaches of Inner Mongolia, where grasslands stretch endlessly toward the horizon, there exists a place few have ever walked, the Arksan volcanic field. Unlike the well-trodden plains where herds of horses graze, this region hides craters, lava flows, and volcanic lakes left behind by eruptions thousands of years ago. The landscape is an unexpected mix of fire and green, where black rock contrasts with rolling meadows. In autumn, larch forests flame gold against the dark stone, and the silence carries only the sound of wind across the steppe. These lakes, still fed by underground springs, shimmer with unusual clarity, reflecting skies so vast they seem infinite. Few travelers make it here, yet for those who do, the experience is haunting, a reminder that even in China's wide northern reaches, secrets lie underfoot, etched into the land by forces far older than human memory. Travel south, and you reach another hidden marvel, shaped by Earth's restless movements, the Enshi Grand Canyon in Hubei Province. While it echoes the majesty of the American Grand Canyon, Enshi has a character all its own. Limestone cliffs rise in sheer walls, their faces streaked with waterfalls that appear after rains and vanish without warning. Beneath them, karst caves open into vast chambers, their stalactites glistening with centuries of mineral growth. Local legends speak of immortals who once walked here, leaving behind echoes of their presence in the stones themselves. The trails that wind along these cliffs are narrow and unassuming, yet they lead to vistas that leave visitors speechless. Valleys filled with green haze, ridges layered like waves in stone, and skies that stretch in endless depth. It is a canyon hidden not by size but by obscurity, a landscape that could rival the world's greatest, yet remains known only to those willing to wander further inland. In Hainan Province, another secret lies within the heart of a mountain, the Longmen Grottoes. Though scholars and travelers may know of their existence, what remains less spoken of are the countless smaller caves hidden away from the main paths. Within these secluded chambers, Buddhas no taller than a hand rest quietly, their features worn yet serene. Unlike the monumental statues carved into the cliffs, these smaller figures feel intimate, personal, as if created not for grandeur but for private devotion. Many sit in silence, untouched for centuries, their walls faintly etched with inscriptions left by unknown hands. The air inside these caves is heavy with dust and reverence, carrying the weight of voices that once chanted here. To step into such a space is to enter a dialogue not with history in its grand sweep, but with individual lives whose prayers have outlived them. These are the secrets within the secret, hidden rooms inside a hidden world. Farther west, in the deserts of Xinjiang, the Lop Nur region stretches into emptiness, its salt flats glinting under an unforgiving sun. Once a vast lake, Lop Nur has long since dried, leaving behind a wasteland that seems inhospitable. Yet within this silence, secrets linger. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of the Lulan Kingdom, an ancient civilization that flourished here 2,000 years ago before vanishing into the sands. The ruins of Lulan tell of streets and homes, of trade routes that once connected east and west, now buried beneath salt and dust. To stand here is to feel the fragility of human ambition. Entire kingdoms erased by shifting landscapes, their memory kept alive only through scattered relics. The desert swallows sound, and as the wind sweeps across the flats, you sense both the enormity and the impermanence of history. Lop Nur remains one of the most hauntingly hidden places in all of China, a graveyard of both water and empire. In the far south, another hidden marvel lies deep in the forests of Guangxi. Detian Waterfall, a cascade that straddles the border between China and Vietnam. Surrounded by lush karst hills, the falls thunder down in wide curtains of white, their mist drifting far into the valleys. Though it is the largest transnational waterfall in Asia, it remains less known compared to its counterparts around the world. Villages nearby still live at a slow pace, their bamboo homes tucked into green fields, where water buffalo graze and children play barefoot along the riverbanks. When the sun sets, the falls glow orange with the fading light, and the sound softens into something almost melodic, like the steady breathing of the earth. To sit nearby, listening to the endless rush of water, is to feel yourself dissolve into the rhythm of the land. Hidden by remoteness and overshadowed by famous names, Detian holds a beauty that speaks quietly but powerfully to those who find it. And then there is the island of Hainan, often spoken of for its beaches but rarely for its interior. Within its forests lies Yanoda Rainforest, a sanctuary of rare plants, waterfalls, and echoing bird calls. Here, vines twist high into the canopy, orchids cling to ancient trees, and the air is thick with moisture, carrying the scent of earth and flowers. Small streams cut through moss-covered rocks, and sunlight filters down in shifting beams. What makes this place secret is not its size, but its intimacy. Walking the trails, you hear the distant calls of monkeys, the rush of hidden streams, and the constant hum of life. Unlike the crowded beaches where tourists gather, Yanoda feels untouched, its beauty reserved for those who step off the beaten path. In its quiet corners, you sense the persistence of a wild China, a world still alive beneath the surface of modern life, waiting patiently to be rediscovered. In the far west, where the Taklamakan Desert stretches endlessly under a sun that spares no mercy, lies a secret oasis that once sustained caravans along the Silk Road. It is the ancient town of Khotan, hidden for centuries by shifting sands and winds. Though modern life has touched it, fragments of its older self remain. Narrow lanes lined with bazaars, where traders once sold jade, silk, and spices. What makes Khotan a hidden wonder is not its present appearance, but the layers of history buried beneath it. Archaeologists have unearthed Buddhist manuscripts, temple ruins, and delicate silk fragments that survived in the desert's arid silence. To wander the outskirts, where sand still presses against walls, is to feel the weight of civilizations that rose and fell, leaving whispers behind. The desert is both destroyer and preserver, concealing treasures for centuries before revealing them again to the patient and the curious. Moving east into Shanxi province, you find another kind of hidden world beneath the ground, the Yaodong cave dwellings. Carved into Loess cliffs, these homes have sheltered families for thousands of years, offering cool refuge in summer and warmth in winter. Entire villages exist within hillsides, their entrances modest, their interiors extending deep into the earth. Many of these dwellings are still inhabited, though they remain largely unknown outside the region. To step inside is to be surprised by their spaciousness, rooms linked by archways, decorated with red lanterns and hand-woven cloth. It is a way of living that feels both ancient and practical, tied directly to the land. The silence of these underground homes broken only by the sound of cooking fires or quiet conversation, holds a serenity rarely found in the world above. They remind us that hidden places are not always landscapes or ruins. Sometimes they are entire ways of life tucked quietly into hillsides. Far to the south, in the jungles of Yunnan, lies another secret carved by nature itself, the Tiger Leaping Gorge. The Jinsha River, a tributary of the Yangtze, forces its way between towering cliffs that rise nearly 4,000 meters above the water. In some places, the gorge narrows to just a few meters across, where legends say a tiger once leapt from bank to bank, escaping hunters. The path that winds along the gorge is treacherous, carved into cliffs that test even the most experienced hikers. Water crashes below with relentless fury, filling the air with spray and thunder. Yet despite its raw power, the gorge is also filled with quiet corners, terraced fields clinging to slopes, small hamlets where families grow maize and barley, and stone shrines tucked under overhangs. To walk here is to balance between danger and beauty, between the overwhelming force of nature and the endurance of those who live within its shadow. Hidden high in the mountains of Guizhou lies another secret, the Maling River Canyon. Its cliffs are vertical walls of limestone, draped with dozens of waterfalls that cascade directly into the river below. The mist rises constantly, nourishing moss and ferns that cling to every crevice. Suspension bridges cross the gorge, swaying with each step, giving visitors the feeling of floating above a world half hidden in spray. Few outside the province know of this canyon, and those who visit often describe it as stepping into a hidden garden sculpted by water and stone. The roar of falling water becomes a steady rhythm, echoing between cliffs as if the canyon itself were alive. It is a place where you feel enveloped by movement, where every surface drips, glimmers, or whispers with the passage of water. Unlike more famous landscapes, Maling holds its grandeur quietly, revealed only to those willing to seek it out. If you travel further east, in Zhejiang Province, there is a place where silence is broken not by waterfalls, but by bamboo, the Moganshan Bamboo Forest. Here, endless groves stretch across mountains, their slender trunks swaying with the wind, producing a sound like waves on the ocean. The air is cool and filled with the scent of green, and trails weave through shaded pathways where light filters down in scattered beams. Once a retreat for foreign missionaries and dignitaries, the mountain still holds old villas hidden among the trees, their walls moss-covered and forgotten. Today, it is a sanctuary for those seeking respite, but its hidden corners far from the main paths still feel untouched. To walk alone among the bamboo is to hear the forest breathe, each rustle a reminder of nature's quiet persistence. It is not a place of dramatic views, but of subtle wonder, where beauty lies in the rhythm of countless stems swaying as one. And in the north, where the deserts meet mountains, lies yet another hidden wonder, the Kanaz Lake of Xinjiang. Surrounded by forests of birch and larch, its waters change color with the seasons, shifting from turquoise to emerald to deep blue. Legends say a giant creature lives within its depths, surfacing only rarely, leaving ripples that disturb the calm surface. Local Tuvan people, whose culture traces back to distant Siberian roots, herd their horses along the meadows, their wooden homes clustered by the shore. In autumn, the entire valley ignites in color, gold and crimson reflecting off the lake like fire. Few places in China feel as remote, as untouched, as Kanaz. To stand by its edge is to sense not only beauty but mystery, as if the water itself guards secrets too deep to be told. It is a reminder that even in a land so vast, there are still lakes and valleys that resist full discovery, holding their silence as a gift to those who arrive. Far to the northeast, in Jilin Province, winter hides one of China's most extraordinary secrets. Along the banks of the Songhua River near Jilin City, a rare natural wonder occurs each year, known simply as the Rime Ice. When the river steams in the bitter cold and fog rises into the frozen air, it clings to every branch and blade of grass, coating the world in crystalline frost. Entire forests turn into frozen sculptures, their branches sparkling like glass under the morning sun. Though locals celebrate this seasonal miracle, few beyond the region ever see it, for it lasts only briefly and requires the perfect balance of temperature and mist. To walk through the frosted groves is to feel as though you've entered another world, one where silence reigns and every twig glitters as if lit from within. It is nature's fleeting masterpiece, a hidden winter wonder that appears without warning and disappears just as suddenly, leaving only memory behind. In Sichuan, another hidden marvel lies not in the mountains but in the air, the Leshan region's sea of clouds. High above the valleys, especially in the mornings, entire landscapes vanish beneath rolling white mist, leaving only peaks and ridges visible, floating like islands adrift in a pale ocean. Monasteries and small shrines emerge briefly, their roofs gleaming before being swallowed again by the moving fog. This phenomenon is not unique to Sichuan, yet in these secluded spots, it feels especially profound. The world below is erased, and all that remains is light, air, and silence. For centuries, monks have meditated in such places, believing the clouds themselves carry wisdom, wrapping the earth in stillness. To witness it is to understand how hidden wonders are not always permanent. Sometimes they exist only in moments, shared by those who rise early enough or patient enough to see them unfold. Deep within Yunnan's mountains lies another secret, one hidden within the very rock. The red land of Dongchuan, not far from Kunming, reveals slopes painted in brilliant reds, golds, and greens. The soil here, rich in iron and minerals, glows in vibrant hues, especially at dawn and dusk when sunlight sharpens every shade. From a distance, the hills appear like layers of a painting, abstract and surreal, yet entirely natural. Farmers here plant crops in patterns that accentuate the colors: wheat, potatoes, and rapeseed, transforming the land into a living canvas. What makes Dongchuan secret is its obscurity. Overshadowed by Yunnan's more famous destinations, it remains known mostly to local farmers and a handful of photographers. To stand among its fields is to feel as though you've stepped inside a painting drawn not by human hands, but by the slow work of soil, time, and light. In Guangxi province, hidden among the limestone karsts, is a place that seems otherworldly, the Silver Cave. Stretching for several kilometers underground, it is filled with glittering formations of stalactites and stalagmites, their surfaces shining under faint illumination like frozen waterfalls of crystal. Local legends say treasures are hidden here, guarded by spirits who turn intruders to stone. Walking through its chambers, you hear water dripping in steady rhythms, echoing like the ticking of an unseen clock. Shadows stretch across walls shaped into pillars, towers, and curtains, each one formed drop by drop over millions of years. Though a small portion of the cave is shown to visitors, the deeper passages remain untouched, holding mysteries scientists have yet to explore. To step into the Silver Cave is to feel time compressed into stone, an entire world existing beneath our feet, hidden and patient. In remote Ningxia, another hidden wonder waits among the deserts, the Helan Mountains. Their slopes are rugged and barren at first glance, yet hidden within them are rock carvings made thousands of years ago by nomadic tribes. These petroglyphs depict hunting scenes, animals, suns, and mysterious symbols whose meanings are still debated. Scattered across cliffs and boulders, they form one of the largest concentrations of ancient rock art in China. Yet despite their significance, they remain little known outside the region. To stand before them, tracing lines carved into stone long before dynasties rose, is to feel the presence of people who lived, hunted, and dreamed here. The silence of the mountains amplifies their voices, carried through time by simple carvings that outlasted empires. Hidden among the rocks, these messages from the past remain open to anyone who seeks them, yet they whisper instead of shout, waiting for listeners in the quiet. And in the far south, where Guangxi meets the borderlands of Vietnam, lies another hidden treasure, Bai Mo Cave, part of the karst system near Hechi. Known for its sheer size, with chambers so vast they could swallow entire cathedrals, it is a realm of shadow and stone that very few have entered. Inside, the air is cool and damp, filled with the scent of minerals and silence. Columns rise like ancient trees, some fuse together into walls that glimmer with crystals when light touches them. Scientists exploring the cave have found rare formations that suggest the Earth still shifts here, its geology alive. Yet for locals, the cave is not just stone but spirit, a place where myths dwell and where people come to seek blessings in hushed voices. Standing inside its vast darkness, you realize that China's hidden wonders are not just landscapes, but entire worlds concealed beneath the surface, waiting with infinite patience. In the remote reaches of Xinjiang, where the deserts give way to snow-capped ridges, lies an isolated valley few outsiders have ever seen. Baihaba Village, tucked against the border with Kazakhstan, it is often described as the most beautiful village in China, though it remains hidden by distance and geography. Wooden houses, built in the style of Siberian log cabins, sit surrounded by meadows where wildflowers bloom in spring and snow lies heavy in winter. The Tuvan people who live here still herd their animals across alpine pastures, their lives tied to rhythms older than the borders around them. At dawn, smoke rises gently from chimneys, blending with the mist that hangs over the valley. What makes Baihaba secret is not only its remoteness but its refusal to change. It is a place where modernity has barely touched, where the sound of hoofbeats on grass is still the heartbeat of daily life. Travel eastward, and you reach another hidden wonder, the Erlangjian scenic area at Qinghai Lake's southern shore. While the lake itself is vast and known, this corner of it is often left unvisited. Here cliffs drop sharply into turquoise waters, and migratory birds gather in such numbers that the air seems alive with wings. Pilgrims walk the shoreline quietly, their prayer wheels spinning with each step, while the mountains in the distance hold a stillness that feels eternal. The wind here carries a distinct clarity, sharp and pure, as if sweeping directly from the sky. Few people pause long in this part of the lake, preferring busier points. And yet in its solitude, it reveals its truest self, a place where silence and devotion blend into a single presence. It is here, in the overlooked corners, that the spirit of Qinghai Lake feels most alive. In Fujian province, away from the Tulu villages, lies another hidden relic of human ingenuity, the ancient city of Quanzhou. While it once flourished as a maritime hub along the old trade routes, today much of its heritage lies quietly in the background, overshadowed by other coastal cities. Within its narrow streets, you still find old stone temples, mosques built by Arab traders centuries ago, and inscriptions in languages long absent from China's shores. The port itself is quiet now, but in the silence you can almost hear the echoes of ships, the calls of merchants, the prayers of sailors before setting out into uncertain seas. It is not a place that calls for spectacle, but one that whispers of global connections long before the modern world claimed them. Quanzhou remains hidden not because it is unknown, but because it has chosen to keep its treasures low, waiting only for those curious enough to look closely. In Guizhou's depths lies another kind of secret, Huangguoshu Waterfall, one of the largest in Asia. Though it has become more known in recent years, the true secret lies not in the main cascade, but in the caves hidden behind it. Walk through narrow passages carved into the cliff, and you find yourself behind a curtain of water, watching the world through a shimmering veil. The sound is overwhelming, a constant roar that drowns every thought. Yet within the cave there is an odd calm, as though the water outside protects a hidden sanctuary. At night, when the crowds leave, the falls belong only to the river and the stones, their voices merging into one. Few experience this solitude, and fewer still pause long enough to let the water's rhythm seep into them. It is in these moments, hidden within what appears familiar, that the true wonder reveals itself. Farther north, in Liaoning province, another forgotten wonder rests on cliffs above the sea. The city of Dalian is known for its harbors, but beyond it lies the Bingyu Valley, often called the Northern Guilin. Towering granite peaks rise above a winding river, their reflections shimmering like brushstrokes of an ink painting. In spring, cherry blossoms scatter petals across the water. In autumn, the forests burn crimson and gold. Unlike Guilin, where tourists fill the boats, Bingyu remains quiet, its beauty whispered only to those who seek it. Villages along its edge remain small and simple, their residents fishing and farming as they always have. The stillness here feels complete, as though the valley exists in its own time, unbothered by the world beyond. It is a secret landscape, not because it is hidden deliberately, but because it simply waits, patient and unchanged. And then, in the farthest corners of Tibet, lies another secret known only to pilgrims and the mountains themselves, Lake Manasarova. At an altitude of more than 4,500 meters, it is among the highest freshwater lakes in the world. Its waters are said to cleanse the soul, and pilgrims from across Asia journey to walk its shores, believing that one circuit erases the sins of a lifetime. The lake lies under the gaze of Mount Kailash, its surface reflecting both stars and snow peaks. At dawn, the first light touches the water, turning it into a mirror of fire, while at night, the Milky Way spills across its surface in a cascade of light. Few outsiders venture here, deterred by the harsh conditions and the remoteness, but those who do often describe it as the most profound place they have ever stood. It is not merely a lake, but a meeting of sky, earth, and spirit, a secret kept in silence, revealed only to the faithful and the patient. In the vast wilderness of Xinjiang, there lies a place where silence stretches further than the eye can see, the Kalajun grasslands. Unlike the better-known steppe regions, Kalajun feels untouched, with rolling hills that bloom with wildflowers in summer and are blanketed by snow in winter. Nomadic Kazakh herders move across the land with their flocks, their yurts standing as solitary dots in the endless expanse. The grasslands carry a strange magic. The wind whistles across them with a voice that seems eternal. And at night, the sky fills with stars so dense, it feels as though the heavens are pressing close to the earth. Few travelers reach these plains, for they lie beyond major routes, but those who do speak of the stillness, of standing in a place so wide that you feel both infinite and small at the same time. The Kalajun grasslands remain a hidden world where life has barely changed for centuries, guarded by the sky and the earth in equal measure. Moving south into Hunan province, another secret lies tucked within the mountains, the ancient town of Fenghuang. Though its name means phoenix, suggesting rebirth, the town itself has resisted transformation. Its wooden houses still rising above the river on stilts, their lanterns glowing red against the night. Stone bridges arch gracefully across the water, and narrow alleys wind between shops and homes that seem to have stepped out of another era. The Tuo River carries small boats that glide silently through the town, their oars dipping rhythmically into the water. At dawn, mist curls above the rooftops, and the sound of morning bells drifts through the streets. Though Fenghuang has grown in recognition, its quieter corners remain hidden, places where old women sit weaving by their doorsteps, and where temples still echo with prayer. To walk through Fenghuang is to feel history alive beneath your feet, not as a museum, but as a living rhythm of daily life. In Sichuan's Aba Prefecture lies another wonder, one that feels like a fragment of paradise, Huanglong Valley. Here, mineral-rich waters flow down the mountain in terraces that shimmer with shades of turquoise, jade, and amber. From above, the pools look like a dragon's scales, glistening under the sunlight. Surrounding them, snow peaks and dense forests frame the valley, creating an atmosphere that feels otherworldly. Few travelers venture here compared to Jiuzhaigou, yet those who do often find Huanglong even more breathtaking. The water is so clear you can see every stone beneath, every ripple reflecting sky and cloud. Monasteries perch on the ridges, their golden roofs shining against the green. To stand here is to feel as though you have discovered a hidden sanctuary, where earth and sky meet in a harmony too delicate to last. It is one of China's best-kept natural secrets, preserved not by walls or laws, but by the sheer difficulty of reaching it. Hidden far to the north, in Heilongjiang, lies a frozen wonder that most of the world has never heard of, the Jingpo Lake waterfall in winter. Formed from volcanic activity, The waterfall plunges nearly 40 meters in summer, but in winter it freezes into a solid curtain of ice, transforming into one of the largest ice waterfalls on Earth. The cascade becomes a wall of blue and white, shimmering like glass in the sunlight. Locals call it a natural palace of ice, and walking near it you hear the groans and cracks as the frozen mass shifts under its own weight. Few visitors endure the sub-zero cold to see it, yet those who do describe it as stepping into a frozen realm where water and time have paused. It is a wonder that exists only for a few months each year, hidden by the harshness of winter, then vanishing again when the thaw comes. In Guangxi's remote valleys lies another secret, one carried not by stone or water but by sound. The Dong people, scattered across small villages, preserve one of the oldest traditions of polyphonic singing in the world. Known as grand songs, these harmonies are performed without instruments, weaving together multiple voices into a sound that seems to rise from the earth itself. The songs tell of seasons, of love, of rivers and mountains, and they are sung not for audiences, but as part of life, in celebrations, rituals, and gatherings. To sit in a Dong village at dusk, hearing voices blend together under the open sky, is to experience a hidden treasure of culture. These songs have no written form. They are passed down orally, generation to generation, fragile yet enduring. They remain a secret not because they are unknown, but because they belong to the villages themselves, offered only to those who linger long enough to be invited into the circle. And in Yunnan, on the borderlands with Myanmar, lies Goligong Mountain, a biodiversity haven so rich that scientists call it a natural museum. The slopes are cloaked in dense forests where orchids bloom, rare birds sing, and clouds cling to the ridges like blankets. Hidden among the valleys are hot springs, waterfalls, and rare species found nowhere else on Earth. Villages along its base still live in quiet harmony with the forest, their lives shaped by the seasons of rain and sun. The mountain itself is shrouded in myth, regarded as sacred by local groups who see it as the dwelling of protective spirits. Few outsiders venture into its depths, for the trails are long and the forests thick, but those who do often describe it as one of the most alive places they have ever seen. Goligong is a hidden world within China, a sanctuary where nature thrives in silence, untouched by the rush of modern life. In the highlands of western Sichuan, where the Tibetan plateau begins to stretch its arms toward the sky, lies Daochen Yading, often called the last pure land on Earth. While its name has begun to spread, the reality of reaching it keeps it hidden. Days of travel through winding mountain passes, across valleys where yaks graze, and rivers cut silver lines through green meadows. At its heart stand three sacred snow peaks, regarded by Tibetan Buddhists as embodiments of deities. Their white summits rise into an endless blue, mirrored by alpine lakes so clear they seem unreal. To walk the trails here is to move through a living mandala, each step echoing with prayer, each view overwhelming in its purity. At dawn, when the peaks glow gold with the first light, the entire valley feels sanctified, untouched by time. It is a place that asks for reverence, not conquest, and in its silence, you sense why it has remained hidden for so long. Far north, in Inner Mongolia, another secret waits: Hulun Lake, the largest freshwater lake in northern China. Surrounded by endless grasslands, it is a body of water that feels almost oceanic, stretching so wide that the far shore is lost to the horizon. Few outsiders come here, yet it has sustained nomads for centuries, providing water and life in a region defined by vastness. In summer, its shores glow with wildflowers and the air fills with the calls of migratory birds, while in winter the lake freezes into an expanse of shimmering white. Local herders gather on its edges for festivals, racing horses across the frozen surface, their voices carrying in the cold air. What makes Hulun Lake hidden is its simplicity. It is not a place of spectacle, but of endurance, a reminder of how people and land have existed together for countless generations in silence. In Shanxi Province, concealed among mountains, lies the ancient Taoist retreat of Luguantai. Tradition holds that Laozi, the founder of Taoism, wrote part of the Tao Te Ching here before vanishing westward. The temple complex sits quietly amid forests, its courtyard shaded by old cypress trees, its halls echoing with the faint sound of wind chimes. Pilgrims arrive not in throngs but in steady trickles, lighting incense and bowing before simple altars. Paths behind the temple lead into the mountains, where stone steps climb to meditation caves carved into the cliffs. Few travelers know of Luguantai, yet to walk its grounds is to feel the presence of ideas that shaped entire civilizations. It is not a place of grandeur, but of thought, a hidden sanctuary where philosophy itself once breathed into life. Hidden much further east in Jiangxi province lies Weiwin's Rainbow Bridge, an ancient covered walkway stretching gracefully across the Lian River. Built centuries ago, it remains the longest wooden bridge of its kind in China, yet few outside the province know of it. The bridge is not only a crossing but a gathering place. Villagers sit in its shaded corridors playing chess, sharing stories, or simply watching the river move beneath them. During the spring bloom, when rapeseed flowers blanket the hillsides in gold, the bridge feels like a gateway between worlds, linking daily life with something eternal. Its wooden beams creak softly underfoot, worn smooth by countless steps, and in the stillness you realize that the bridge itself is a living memory, carrying centuries within its grain. It is a hidden wonder, not because it is grand, but because it continues quietly, unchanging, a part of life that outsiders rarely see. In Xinjiang's desert lies yet another secret, the flaming mountains of Turpan. Their name is no exaggeration. In summer, temperatures soar so high that the red sandstone ridges appear to burn under the sun, glowing like waves of fire. Yet hidden among them are valleys where life clings stubbornly, grapevines growing in ancient Carrez irrigation channels, and villages shaded by orchards. The contrast between the searing ridges and the cool green oases feels almost miraculous. Legends of the Monkey King place his battles here, and locals still tell tales of fiery spirits dwelling in the mountains. Few visitors endure the heat long enough to explore deeply, but those who do often find the silence of the ridges haunting, broken only by the sound of wind rushing through canyons. The flaming mountains are a reminder that hidden wonders are not always gentle. Some are fierce, demanding resilience and humility from those who enter. And finally, in Zhejiang province, lies Thousand Island Lake, a reservoir created when a valley was flooded in the 1950s. What makes it secret is not the hundreds of forested islets that now dot its surface, but what lies beneath. An ancient city known as Xicheng, the Lion City. Submerged for more than 60 years, the city remains preserved under the water, its walls, gates, and carvings intact. Divers who descend into its depths describe entire streets, archways, and temples, all silent and untouched, guarded by fish and shadow. Above, the lake reflects sky and forest, serene and unassuming, while beneath lies a world frozen in time. It is one of China's most surreal hidden wonders, a city both lost and preserved, reminding us that sometimes the greatest secrets lie not on land or in mountains, but beneath the still surface of water. In the high plateaus of Qinghai, hidden among barren ridges and windswept valleys, lies the Chaka Salt Lake, sometimes called the mirror of the sky of the East. While I spoke earlier of its reflective surface, what many do not know is how its atmosphere changes with each season. In summer, when the water is shallow, the sky paints itself upon the surface with such clarity that mountains, clouds, and stars seem to merge into one. In winter, the lake hardens into glimmering salt flats, crunching underfoot with a sound like breaking glass. The silence is absolute here, broken only by the faint hiss of wind across the salt. Few people remain for long, but those who linger through the night often describe the stars doubled, above and below, as though they are floating within the universe itself. It is a place that erases distance, where the boundary between heaven and earth is blurred until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. Southward, hidden in the folds of Hunan's mountains, lies Dahang village, a Miao settlement suspended above the Lishui River. Wooden stilt houses cling to cliffs, their beams darkened by centuries of rain and mist. Below, a waterfall plunges into the valley, sending up a fine spray that drifts across the roofs like a soft veil. Paths weave through rice terraces that glow emerald in spring and gold in autumn, each step echoing with the weight of generations who carved these slopes from stone. What makes Da Hang secret is not just its isolation, but its unbroken culture. Songs and dances still performed as they were centuries ago, rituals carried out not for spectacle, but for life itself. At night, when torches flicker in the courtyards and drums echo against the cliffs, it feels as though the village is breathing with the mountain, bound to it in ways outsiders can only begin to understand. Far out in the South China Sea lies another hidden wonder, the Paracel Islands, a scattered chain of coral atolls, reefs, and sandbars, rarely visited except by fishermen. Beneath their shallow waters lie some of the most pristine coral systems in China, teeming with life that few eyes ever see. Schools of fish move like shifting clouds, sea turtles glide gracefully, and colorful corals bloom in shapes that resemble forests and towers. On the small islands themselves, seabirds nest in the thousands, filling the air with cries that echo over the waves. While geopolitics has cast shadows over these islands, their natural beauty remains untouched in many places. To sail among them, hearing only the wind and waves, is to realize that China's secrets extend even into the sea, places where life thrives unseen, hidden beneath the surface, waiting in silence. In Gansu, where desert meets mountain, lies another world, the Crescent Lake of Dunhuang. This small, crescent-shaped pool has existed for over 2,000 years, sustained mysteriously despite being surrounded by shifting sand dunes. Travelers along the Silk Road once stopped here, drinking from its waters and finding refuge in the shade of willows planted beside it. To this day, the lake remains, its blue surface a startling contrast against the golden sands that rise steeply around it. Few natural wonders feel as improbable as this, a lake held like a jewel in the palm of the desert, defying logic and time. At sunset, when the dunes glow with fiery orange and the lake mirrors the fading sky, you sense why it has been revered for centuries. It is not just a source of water, but a source of awe, a secret sustained by the desert itself. Deep in the forests of Yunnan lies another hidden marvel, the tropical botanical garden of Xishuangbanna. While it sounds cultivated, its greatest secrets lie in the wild areas beyond the main paths, where the jungle takes over. Towering fig trees spread roots like walls, vines climb high into the canopy, and the calls of unseen creatures echo in the dense air. Here, plants bloom in forms and colors rarely found elsewhere, some so rare they exist only within these forests. The air is thick with moisture, carrying the scent of orchids and wet leaves. Local dye traditions see the forest as alive, each tree carrying a spirit, each river flowing with memory. To wander into its depths is to step into an ancient living archive, one that hides more than it reveals. The true wonder of this place is not in its rarity, but in its resilience, a hidden sanctuary where life persists with fierce abundance. And high in Tibet, beyond the sacred lakes and mountains, lies the Guji Kingdom ruins, a forgotten empire perched on cliffs above the Saltlay River. Once a thriving center of culture and Buddhism, Guji flourished for centuries before vanishing mysteriously in the 17th century. Today, only the crumbling remains of palaces, monasteries, and homes cling to the hillsides, their walls painted with fading murals of celestial beings and kings. The silence is immense here, broken only by the wind as it rushes across the plateau. Few travelers make it this far, and those who do often speak of the eerie stillness, as though the voices of the kingdom remain suspended in the air. To stand among its ruins is to feel the presence of a lost world, one that lived, thrived, and disappeared, leaving only whispers carved into stone. The Guj ruins remain one of China's greatest secrets, not because they are hidden from sight, but because they are hidden in time. In the eastern reaches of Anhui, hidden among misty peaks, lies Mount Juhua, one of China's 4 sacred Buddhist mountains. While pilgrims visit its temples, the true secrets lie in the lesser-trodden paths that wind through dense forests and over ridges where the clouds gather thick and low. Here, moss-covered stone steps lead to quiet hermitages, their wooden doors often closed, their courtyards still except for the rustle of bamboo. Monks who live in these remote corners rarely appear, dedicating their days to meditation and silence. At dawn, the sound of a bell carries faintly through the fog, and incense drifts unseen between the trees. Unlike the grand temples at the mountain's base, these hidden sanctuaries ask nothing of visitors but respect. To find them is to discover another rhythm of life, one that endures quietly, guarded by forest and stone. In remote Tibet, another secret glimmers in the thin air, Yamdrok Lake. Its turquoise waters curl like a dragon among the mountains, shifting colors as light changes across the sky. From above, the lake appears infinite, yet it is cradled by peaks that rise snow-covered even in summer. Local tradition holds that Yamdrok is a life-giving spirit, its waters connected to the very soul of Tibet. Pilgrims walk its shores in silence, each step an offering, while herders graze their yaks on meadows that slope gently into the water. What makes Yamdrok hidden is not its obscurity, but its remoteness. Reaching it requires long, winding roads over passes higher than 4,000 meters, where oxygen thins and each breath is deliberate. To stand at its edge is to feel the immensity of the sky mirrored below, as though the world has doubled itself in stillness. Few lakes carry such presence, and fewer still remain so fiercely untouched. Farther north, in Inner Mongolia, lies another wonder rarely spoken of, the Genhe Wetlands, the coldest town in China, and the wetlands that surround it. In summer, the marshes are alive with reeds, wildflowers, and countless birds, their songs carried by the breeze. The water reflects the sky in fragments, broken by clusters of birch trees that gleam white in the sunlight. In winter, however, the wetlands transform into a frozen expanse, where temperatures plunge so low that even breath crystallizes in the air. Despite the harshness, life persists. Herders endure the cold with their reindeer, a tradition unique in China. To witness the Genhe Wetlands is to see resilience carved into both land and people, a secret landscape where survival itself becomes a kind of beauty. It remains hidden, not because it lacks grandeur, but because its story is one of endurance, a quiet strength too often overlooked. In Zhejiang, away from the crowded cities, lies Yandang Mountain, a place where cliffs rise like walls of flame above emerald valleys. Waterfalls plunge from dizzying heights, scattering into mists that shimmer under the sun. What few realize is how vast its hidden corners are. Narrow gorges filled with bamboo, secluded caves where temples cling to stone, and peaks that emerge suddenly from the forest like ancient guardians. Local legends say the mountains were forged by dragons, their scales turned to stone, their breath becoming waterfalls. To walk among Yandang's hidden trails is to feel the blend of myth and reality, where every rock and river carries a story. Unlike more famous peaks, Yandang is not overrun, and its silence is still intact. The rustle of leaves, the roar of falling water, and the cries of distant eagles create a soundtrack that belongs only to those who step beyond the obvious paths. Traveling westward, in Sichuan's Liangshan region, another hidden world reveals itself, Lugu Lake. Encircled by mountains, its waters shimmer with deep blues, shifting into silver at dusk. On its shores live the Mosuo people, known for their matrilineal traditions, where women lead households and heritage is passed through the mother's line. Their customs, often misunderstood, have survived in this secluded setting, untouched by outside influence for centuries. Wooden boats carved from single logs glide across the lake, paddled slowly by villagers who sing softly as they move. Small islands rise from the water, some crowned with temples, others left wild, their trees reflected perfectly in the stillness. To visit Lugu Lake is not only to see beauty, but to encounter a hidden culture. one that offers another perspective on how human societies can be shaped. It is a reminder that China's secrets are not only in its landscapes, but in the lives of its people. And in Gansu, tucked away beyond deserts and ridges, lies a sight so surreal it feels otherworldly, the Yardang Ghost City. Wind and sand have sculpted the land into shapes that resemble castles, animals, and ships, standing like a petrified metropolis under the open sky. At dusk, the formations glow in shades of red and gold, their shadows stretching across the barren earth. When the wind rises, it howls through the formations with eerie tones, giving rise to the name Ghost City. Legends say spirits wander here, and travelers speak of the unsettling sense that the land itself is alive. Few dare to stay after dark, but those who do often describe the night sky above as the clearest they have ever seen, stars blazing against a silence broken only by the desert wind. The Yardang Ghost City remains hidden, not because it is unseen, but because it belongs to a world beyond the ordinary, a secret carved by time itself. High in the all-time mountains of Xinjiang, where China brushes against the borders of Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and Russia, lies Kanas Lake, a place of haunting beauty wrapped in legend. Its waters shift from turquoise to emerald to sapphire with the changing seasons, and the forests surrounding it blaze gold and red in autumn. But beyond its beauty lies a secret whispered for centuries, tales of a giant water creature dwelling in its depths. Local Tuvan herders speak of waves rising suddenly on calm days, ripples that vanish without explanation. Scientists attribute the movements to natural causes, yet the mystery endures, giving Kanas an aura that feels otherworldly. The remoteness of the lake means few visitors reach it, and those who do often describe the stillness as overwhelming, the kind of silence that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. Standing on its shore, it is easy to believe that the lake guards secrets too deep to be revealed. Traveling south into Guizhou province, another hidden wonder emerges in the form of the Getu River Caves. Here, the river disappears into a vast limestone cavern, flowing through chambers so immense they feel like cathedrals. Sunlight filters through a natural opening in the cave roof, casting beams onto the water and illuminating its jade-green surface. Local villagers still use wooden boats to cross the underground river, their songs echoing against the stone walls as if the cave itself were singing back. Few outsiders ever see these caves, yet those who do often leave with the impression of having entered a sacred world beneath the earth. The silence is not empty but resonant, filled with the sound of dripping water and the gentle rush of the unseen river. It is a hidden sanctuary carved by time, one that humbles all who step inside. In Tibet, beyond the more famous monasteries, lies Samye, the first Buddhist monastery built in China. While its history is known, the deeper secret lies in its setting. The monastery is designed as a mandala, a cosmic diagram with halls and stupas arranged in perfect symmetry, symbolizing the universe itself. Surrounded by mountains and the wide expanse of the Yarlung Valley, Samye feels both vast and intimate, a place where earth and sky merge into a single presence. Pilgrims circle its walls, spinning prayer wheels, their chants carried by the wind into the silence of the valley. The atmosphere is unlike anywhere else in Tibet, not grand or imposing, but deeply contemplative. Many who come here say they feel an unseen weight, a sense of timelessness that reaches beyond religion and into the core of existence itself. Samye remains hidden, not because it is unknown, but because its truth is only revealed to those who walk slowly, quietly, and with intent. Farther east, in Jiangxi province, lies Mount Lushan, a place that has inspired poets, painters, and philosophers for centuries, yet whose hidden corners remain untouched. Its cliffs plunge into mist-filled valleys, waterfalls tumble in ribbons of silver, and paths weave through forests where temples stand half-concealed by trees. The mountain was once a retreat for scholars seeking solitude, and their words still echo in its quiet groves. What makes Lushan hidden is not its absence from history, but its depth. There are trails that lead away from the well-trodden paths, where the only sound is the call of birds and the rustle of leaves. To wander here is to sense the presence of those who came before, their thoughts etched invisibly into the landscape. It is less a destination than a dialogue between nature and memory, between silence and words. In Guangxi's remote karst valleys lies another hidden marvel, the Bama longevity villages. Here, people live well into their 90s and beyond, their lives shaped by pure air, mineral-rich water, and simple diets tied to the land. What makes these villages secret is not their existence, but the atmosphere that surrounds them. The rivers flow slowly, reflecting cliffs that rise like sentinels above the fields, and the people move at a pace that feels entirely separate from the modern world. Scientists study the region, searching for reasons behind its unusual concentration of long-lived residents. Yet the secret may lie less in the body than in the spirit, a life lived in rhythm with the earth. To walk through these villages is to feel time slow, to see children and elders together in courtyards shaded by ancient trees, laughter and silence blending seamlessly. It is a hidden wonder not of geography alone, but of human resilience and harmony. And in the deserts of Gansu, there lies yet another secret, hidden by both sand and time, the ruins of Jiayuguan, the westernmost fort of the Great Wall. While the Great Wall is celebrated, few venture to this end, where it meets the desert and mountains in stark silence. The fort stands weathered but defiant, its gates opening toward the vast emptiness of the Silk Road beyond. Once, this was the edge of empire, the point where travelers stepped into uncertainty, their caravans vanishing into the horizon. Today, the fort remains largely untouched, its walls holding the echoes of soldiers, merchants, and pilgrims who once passed through. To stand at Jiayuguan is to feel the threshold between worlds, the known and the unknown, the safe and the perilous. It is a hidden reminder that even the greatest walls end, and beyond them, mystery waits. In the deep mountains of Hunan, far from the well-known paths, lies Shibadong village, once anonymous, now faintly recognized, yet still hidden in essence. The village clings to the slopes, its wooden houses weathered by centuries of rain and mist. Surrounded by terraces carved into the hills, it seems to float in layers of green. The Miao people here have lived for generations with little change, their songs and embroidery carrying the memory of ancestors. What makes Shibadong secret is not merely its location, but the feeling it carries of a world half removed from the present, where the rhythm of life is not dictated by clocks, but by planting, harvesting, and the slow unfolding of seasons. When evening falls, lanterns flicker along the alleys, casting warm light across the wooden beams. The sound of flutes drifts into the night, and you realize you are standing in a place where time moves differently, almost tenderly. Travel northwest into Gansu, and another secret emerges, the Zhangye Dansha landforms. While their colorful ridges have become famous through photographs, much of the terrain remains hidden, accessible only by foot across rugged paths. In these quieter valleys, the Rainbow Hills stretch in silence, unbroken by visitors. The layers of red, yellow, and orange stone shift in color as the sun moves, painting the land anew every hour. Here, away from the viewing platforms, you feel the full immensity of geologic time, the patient layering of sediments over millions of years. The silence is deep, broken only by wind rushing across ridges and the occasional call of a hawk. It is in these less seen corners that the Dansha reveals its true wonder, not a spectacle to be consumed, but a meditation written in stone, waiting only for those willing to wander. In Tibet's remote corners lies another hidden sanctuary, Tashilhunpo Monastery in Shigatse. Founded in the 15th century, it has long been the seat of the Panchen Lama, yet it receives far fewer visitors than Lhasa's Potala Palace. Its golden roofs gleam under the thin mountain air, but the true secrets lie within its vast courtyards and shadowed halls. Statues of Buddhas rise to impossible heights, their faces calm and knowing, while monks chant in low voices that reverberate against painted walls. In the quieter chapels where candles burn low, The scent of butter lamps fills the air. Outside, prayer flags flutter against the snow peaks, carrying silent blessings into the sky. To walk through Tashilhunpo is to feel a different rhythm of time, not one of empires or dynasties, but of devotion that has endured unbroken through centuries of turbulence. It is hidden not in obscurity, but in the depth of presence it offers. In the far south, among the jungles of Guangxi, lies Tongling Grand Canyon, a place where waterfalls plunge from cliffs into turquoise pools below. Dense forests cloak the walls of the canyon, and mist gathers constantly, giving the impression of a world in perpetual dawn. The sound of water dominates, rushing and echoing, yet within it there is a profound calm. Few outside the region know of Tongling, and those who do often find themselves alone, surrounded by a chorus of cicadas, birds, and the endless rhythm of falling water. Small paths wind along the river, crossing wooden bridges and disappearing into the trees. It is a canyon less about grandeur and more about intimacy, a hidden world where water, forest, and stone merge into one, untouched and alive. Farther north in Heilongjiang lies another hidden marvel, Wusuli River Wetlands. Here the river meanders along the border with Russia, creating a mosaic of marshes, lakes, and meadows that stretch as far as the eye can see. Rare birds nest among reeds, and in spring the wetlands come alive with blossoms that turn the land into a sea of color. The water reflects the sky endlessly, broken only by ripples of fish or the flight of cranes overhead. Few people venture here, for the region is remote and harsh in winter, but in its solitude lies its secret. The wetlands feel boundless, eternal, as though you are standing in a world that belongs more to nature than to humans. The silence here is rich, layered with the voices of countless creatures, a hidden chorus often unheard. And in Yunnan's northeast lies another secret shaped by ice and fire, Baima Snow Mountain. Rising above valleys carved by the Mekong River, its peaks are perpetually shrouded in snow and clouds. Dense forests cloak its slopes, home to endangered species such as the golden snub-nosed monkey, rarely seen by outsiders. The mountain is sacred to local Tibetans, and pilgrims make arduous treks along its ridges, leaving prayer flags fluttering in the thin air. Few travelers reach Baima, for the roads are difficult and the climbs demanding. Yet for those who do, the reward is immense. Views of ridges stretching endlessly, of valleys filled with mist, of silence so deep it feels alive. Baima remains hidden not by accident, but by the mountain's own will, a guardian of its secrets, allowing only the patient and the reverent to glimpse its beauty. In the rugged heart of Tibet, beyond the well-traveled roads and sacred monasteries, lies the hidden valley of Pami. Known as the Switzerland of Tibet, it is a place of glaciers and forests, where snow peaks rise above turquoise lakes and meadows bloom with wildflowers. Unlike the stark plateaus often associated with Tibet, Pami feels lush, alive, and almost secretive, cradled by mountains that guard it from the outside world. Few visitors make the journey here, for the roads are long and winding, often blocked by landslides or snow. Yet for those who arrive, the valley reveals itself slowly, the reflection of peaks in still waters, the quiet hum of bees moving across fields, and the sound of glacial rivers carving through stone. Pami is a reminder that Tibet is not only vast and barren, but also fertile and hidden, holding landscapes that surprise even those who think they know it well. In Hunan Province, concealed within steep karst formations, lies Furong Town, once a simple Tuja village, now half forgotten despite its beauty. Wooden stilt houses rise above a wide waterfall that plunges directly into the Yu River, filling the town with constant mist and sound. Narrow lanes wind between old homes, where residents still dry chilies in the sun and weave baskets on their porches. The waterfall itself glows under lantern light at night, casting rainbows into the dark, while the river below flows silently toward distant valleys. Though known in passing, Furong remains hidden in spirit, overshadowed by more famous sights. To walk its streets is to feel you have stumbled upon a place where water and life are inseparable, where time moves with the steady rhythm of the falls, It is not a destination that announces itself, but one that reveals itself gently, only to those willing to linger. Farther north, in Shanxi, lies another secret, the ancient city of Pingyao. While its name is familiar to historians, its truest essence is hidden in its shadows. The city walls, still intact, encircle lanes where wooden shops and stone courtyards stand as they did centuries ago. Yet beyond the main streets, away from the few tourists who pass through, lie quieter alleys where time feels suspended. Families cook in courtyards, their laughter mingling with the crackle of firewood, and merchants still weigh grain on scales that look centuries old. The walls themselves glow orange at sunset, their watchtowers rising like silent sentinels over the rooftops. Pingyao is less a city than a living memory, its secrets tucked into corners where the past endures in small gestures and daily rituals. It is a hidden wonder, not because it is unknown, but because its deepest truths remain beyond the reach of casual eyes. In Inner Mongolia, where the desert meets the sky, lies the Badain Jaran Desert, a place I mentioned before, but whose secrets stretch far deeper than a passing glance can reveal. Among its towering dunes, some of the highest in the world, lie hidden lakes that shimmer with impossible clarity. Their waters appear suddenly, cradled in hollows between dunes, fed by underground springs that no one fully understands. Some are fresh, others salty, and together they create an oasis of life in a sea of sand. The dunes themselves hum with sound when the wind shifts, producing low, resonant tones that seem almost like voices. Local legends say the desert sings because it remembers, of travelers lost, of caravans that once crossed its expanse. To camp here is to feel both wonder and unease, surrounded by silence so complete it seems alive. The Badain Jaran remains one of China's greatest hidden deserts, a paradox of emptiness and abundance. In Sichuan's far western reaches lies Litang, a town perched at over 4,000 meters, often called the highest town in the world. Surrounded by vast grasslands and snow peaks, it remains remote and difficult to reach, its air thin and sharp, each breath deliberate. Monasteries crown the hillsides, their red walls glowing against the blue sky, while herders ride horses across the open plains, their voices carrying far in the dry air. Festivals here are unlike anywhere else, gatherings of riders, singers and dancers that turn the grasslands into living celebrations. Litang's secret lies in its intensity, the rawness of the air, the vastness of the land, and the unbroken traditions that flourish in its isolation. It is not a place that invites comfort, but one that demands respect, reminding you of the resilience required to live at the edge of the sky. And in Fujian, hidden along the coast, lies Meizhou Island, a small place with immense spiritual weight. It is the birthplace of Mazu, the sea goddess revered by millions across China and beyond. Pilgrims arrive quietly, carrying incense and prayers, yet the island itself remains calm, its beaches washed by steady waves, its cliffs rising against the sea. Temples dedicated to Mazu glow with lantern light at dusk, their halls filled with the scent of incense and the murmur of devotion. Outside, fishing boats rest in harbors as they have for centuries, their sails furled against the wind. Few outside the faithful know of Meizhou, yet it remains one of China's hidden spiritual centers, a place where sea, faith, and memory converge. To stand by the shore at dawn, hearing waves break against the rocks while bells ring faintly in the distance, is to feel the presence of something larger, unseen but undeniable. In the vastness of Xinjiang's deserts, far from any road, lies the ancient city of Zhaohe. Unlike most ruins built upon the earth, Zhaohe was carved directly into a plateau of clay, its streets, homes, and temples etched into the living ground itself. More than 2,000 years old, it once thrived as a fortress along the Silk Road, yet today it lies silent, its walls eroded into soft shapes by centuries of wind and sun. Walking through Zhaohe is unlike visiting any other ruin. You do not see stones piled upon stones, but entire avenues hollowed from the soil, As if the earth itself gave rise to a city, few travelers reach it, and those who do often describe a feeling of walking within a ghost, a city that once pulsed with voices now reduced to whispers of dust. The silence is immense, pressing, and yet deeply human, a reminder of what time does to all empires. Travel eastward into Sichuan, and another secret waits high in the mountains, the Daocheng Red Grassland. Each autumn, a valley near Daocheng turns crimson as fields of red aquatic plants blaze against snow peaks and golden forests. The sight lasts only a few weeks before frost returns, everything to silence, making it one of the most fleeting hidden wonders in China. Villages dot the valley, their wooden houses framed by prayer flags that flutter against the wind. The air is thin, the light sharp, and the contrast of colors so vivid it feels unreal. Few visitors ever time their journey to witness this transformation, and so the valley remains largely untouched, a secret painted briefly by the earth each year. To see it is to realize how nature often hides its greatest beauty, not in permanence, but in brief, delicate moments that vanish as quickly as they appear. In Yunnan, near the border with Laos, lies Xishuangbanna's Menglun Forest Canopy Walk, a path that reveals secrets hidden above the ground. Here, suspension bridges stretch across treetops, offering a view of the rainforest few ever see. From this height, you realize how alive the forest is. Flocks of hornbills soar past, monkeys leap between branches, and orchids bloom in colors that glow against the green. The air is thick with the scent of wet leaves and flowers, and the sounds rise from below in a constant chorus. While many know the forest floor, few know the canopy, and fewer still take the time to linger, to watch how light shifts across the leaves, and how the forest breathes as one vast organism. To walk here is to glimpse a hidden perspective, a world that has always existed above us, quiet but thriving. In the deserts of Ningxia lies another secret that glows with both history and mystery: the Western Sha Mausoleums. Built nearly 1,000 years ago by a dynasty long vanished, these tombs rise from the sand like earthen pyramids, their outlines softened by time. Little is known about the Western Sha people, their language lost, their records destroyed, leaving only these massive burial mounds as their legacy. Archaeologists uncover fragments, pottery, coins, statues, but the full story remains hidden, swallowed by history. To stand among the tombs at sunset, when the light turns them gold and the desert wind whistles softly, is to feel the weight of a forgotten empire. Unlike the grandeur of the Ming tombs near Beijing, these mausoleums are quiet, understated, and profoundly secret, holding mysteries that may never fully be revealed. In Fujian's mountains lies a quieter secret: the Weiwei Mountains, known for their winding rivers and strange rock formations. While sections are visited, many valleys remain untouched, hidden behind ridges where tea plantations spread like green carpets across the slopes. The region is famous for producing some of the world's finest oolong teas, cultivated in methods passed down for centuries. Villages here feel timeless, their stone lanes echoing with the sound of water flowing through ancient canals. At dawn, mist curls through the valleys, blurring the line between mountain and sky. The rocks themselves rise like pillars, their surfaces carved by wind and rain into shapes that resemble animals and guardians. Away from the main paths, these valleys feel secret, held by tea, mist, and silence. To sip a cup of tea brewed here, within the very land that nurtured it, is to taste a hidden wonder, a liquid memory of mountain and time. And in Tibet's far west lies one of the most secretive places of all, Lake Rakshastal, lying beside the sacred Lake Manasaravar. Unlike its neighbor, revered for purity, Rakshastal is seen as dark, cursed, its waters salty and devoid of life. Local legends call it the Lake of the Demon, a place associated with mythic battles and forbidden energies. Its surface reflects the mountains with eerie clarity, yet no fish swim in its depths, no plants grow along its shores. Pilgrims avoid it, circling only Manasaravar, leaving Rakshastal in solitude. The contrast of the two lakes, one holy, one feared, creates a mystery that has endured for centuries. To stand by its edge is to feel unease, as though the silence is heavier than elsewhere, carrying a presence that defies explanation. It is one of China's most hidden wonders, not because it is unseen, but because it is deliberately avoided, left to its own unsettling beauty. In the lonely deserts of Xinjiang, far from cities or even villages, lies the mysterious ruin of Sabashi Temple. Once one of the most important Buddhist centers along the Silk Road, it now crumbles quietly under the open sky. Its clay walls, eroded into soft shapes, rise faintly from the earth like shadows of what once was. Nearly 1,500 years ago, monks gathered here to study, pray, and share wisdom carried across continents. Now, only the wind moves through its broken archways, carrying sand into chambers where silence reigns. Few travelers find their way to Sabashi, and those who do are often struck by its haunting emptiness. It is not grandeur that lingers here, but presence, the sense that prayers once filled this place so fully that even ruin cannot erase them. Far to the south, hidden in Guangxi, lies Longji Rice Terraces, often called the Dragon's Backbone. Though some know its name, the deeper valleys remain secret, where farmers still work the land with water buffalo, guiding plows through mirrored fields. In spring, the terraces shine with water, reflecting the sky in 1,000 fragments. In summer, they glow green, in autumn gold, and in winter they lie dusted with frost, like scales of silver. The terraces are carved directly into the mountains, rising step by step until they vanish into mist. Walking through them, you feel not only awe at their beauty, but respect for the hands that built and sustained them across centuries. The terraces are hidden not by obscurity, but by depth. They are not monuments for display, but landscapes of survival, shaped by patience, sweat, and silence. In the forests of Yunnan, another secret waits, the hidden valley of Nuden. This small village clings to hillsides above winding streams, its houses built of stone and earth, their roofs weathered dark with age. For centuries, Nudeng was known for salt production, its wells and furnaces still standing quietly among the homes. Today, the village feels like a place paused in time, its narrow alleys winding upward past temples, shrines, and courtyards filled with drying herbs. The scent of salt still lingers faintly in the air, a memory of the past carried into the present. Few outsiders visit Nuden, yet those who do often find themselves welcomed into its rhythm, a world where roosters announce dawn, bells mark the hours, and the silence of the valley is broken only by laughter drifting from open windows. High in Qinghai lies another hidden wonder, the Kekesili Nature Reserve. This vast plateau, one of the least populated areas on Earth, is a sanctuary for rare species such as Tibetan antelope, wild yaks, and snow leopards. The land stretches endlessly, barren at first glance, yet alive with subtle movement, herds grazing in the distance, birds soaring silently, rivers carving silver lines across the grasslands. Temperatures drop harshly, and the air is thin, but the silence here is immense, a silence so complete it feels sacred. Few humans tread this land, and those who do often speak of feeling like intruders in a realm that belongs wholly to nature. Kekesili is not hidden because it is small, but because it is vast, resisting intrusion, reminding us of how much of the world still breathes beyond our reach. In Zhejiang's coastal waters lies another secret, a drowned city older than memory. Beneath Qiandao Lake rests the ancient city of Haicheng, flooded during dam construction in the 20th century. Like its neighbor, Lion City, it lies preserved beneath the waves, its gates, walls, and carvings intact. Divers who descend into its depths describe entire neighborhoods frozen in silence, their stone guardians still watching over empty streets. The water has kept them safe, holding the city in suspension, neither alive nor destroyed. Above, boats ripple across the lake's calm surface, their passengers unaware of the world sleeping below. It is one of the strangest of China's secrets, a place not lost to time, but hidden by water, kept intact as if waiting for a future it may never see. And in Tibet, where mountains fold into endless ridges, lies Nayangqi, often called the Switzerland of the East. Unlike the barren plateaus most associate with Tibet, Nayangqi is a world of rivers, forests, and blooming peach blossoms in spring. Snow peaks rise above valleys filled with pink petals, a sight so unexpected it feels like a dream. The Yarlong Tsangpo River winds through gorges here, deeper even than the Grand Canyon, its waters rushing with immense force. Few outsiders visit, for the journey is long and difficult, but those who do often find themselves overwhelmed by the contrast. Glaciers and blossoms, snow and flowers, wild rivers and silent forests. Nayangqi remains one of China's most hidden paradises, not because it is small or fragile, but because it lies so far from the paths most people take. It waits in silence, a secret valley where seasons weave beauty with abandon. In the deserts of Xinjiang, not far from the ancient Silk Road routes, lies the ruin of Gaochang. Once a thriving city that welcomed merchants, monks, and envoys from across Asia, it now lies abandoned, its earthen walls softened by centuries of wind. Gaochang's streets once echoed with dozens of languages, its temples alive with chanting, its markets filled with silks and spices. Today, only shadows remain, long corridors of dust, where the outlines of palaces and gates can still be traced. Few travelers reach it, yet those who do often describe an uncanny silence, as though the voices of thousands linger invisibly in the air. Gaochang is a secret not because it is hidden from sight, but because its memory has been nearly erased, leaving only fragments that hint at the magnitude of what once was. Far to the southeast, in the mountains of Jiangxi, lies Sanqing Mountain, a Taoist sacred site where granite peaks rise like spears into the sky. Though some travelers know its name, the hidden trails carry the mountain's true spirit. Clouds roll constantly through the valleys, transforming the peaks into islands adrift in a shifting sea of white. Small temples perch on ridges, their courtyards open to the wind, their walls adorned with faded calligraphy. In these higher reaches, silence prevails, broken only by the occasional ringing of a bell carried by air. Pilgrims walk narrow stone steps carved directly into cliffs, leaving offerings at shrines that seem almost unreachable. The mountain is named after the Taoist Trinity, and in its hidden places, you feel the essence of Tao itself, a balance between stone and sky, between permanence and transformation. In Yunnan, near the Myanmar border, lies the Tengchong volcanic field, a landscape few outsiders know. Dozens of dormant cones rise across rolling hills, some covered in dense forests, others barren and blackened. Hot springs bubble from the earth, filling pools with steaming mineral-rich water. Local people have long regarded the springs as sacred, their vapors seen as breath from the earth itself. Walking here, you sense the restless heart of the land, still alive beneath the surface, its power muted but never gone. At night, the sky is filled with stars, and the silhouettes of volcanic cones stand like ancient guardians against the horizon. Tengchong remains hidden not for lack of wonder, but because it exists quietly off the beaten path, known only to those who search for landscapes shaped by fire and preserved by silence. In Guizhou's southern reaches lies Zhenyuan, a town often overlooked but filled with hidden depth. The Weiyang River curves around it in a crescent, reflecting mountains and temples that rise directly from its banks. Stone bridges link narrow streets, and old homes lean over the water, their eaves nearly touching the current. By day, the town feels quiet, almost drowsy, but by night, lanterns glow on the river, their reflections stretching endlessly across the water. Taoist and Buddhist temples crown the hillsides, their stairways winding upward in silence. Few visitors pause here, overshadowed by larger names in Guizhou, yet Zhenyuan holds a presence that feels eternal. To walk its alleys at dawn, Hearing only the sweep of a broom on stone and the call of birds is to discover a hidden China that lives not in spectacle but in stillness. In the far north of Heilongjiang, another secret hides in the forests of Mohe. Known as China's Arctic Village, it lies at the country's highest latitude, where winters are long and night can stretch for weeks. In the heart of this frozen land, the aurora sometimes appears, green and violet ribbons dancing across the polar sky. The forests here are endless, filled with birch and pine, and the silence of snow is absolute, broken only by the crack of ice beneath your boots. Few people endure the cold to come this far, yet those who do witness one of China's rarest wonders, a glimpse of the northern lights above a land that feels more Siberian than Chinese. Mohe is hidden by its distance, its cold, and its severity. But within that severity lies beauty, a frozen secret sky painted with light. And in Tibet's wild valleys lies the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon, the deepest canyon on Earth, yet largely unknown outside of China. Its walls plunge more than 5,000 meters from snow peaks to river floor, and its length stretches beyond imagination. Within it, climates shift dramatically, from glaciers to subtropical forests, all existing within a single cut of the earth. Few have entered its depths, for the terrain is harsh, the rivers violent, and the paths uncertain. Those who have described a world apart, waterfalls that thunder from unseen heights, forests alive with species found nowhere else, and silence so deep it seems untouched since the beginning of time. The Yarlung Tsangpo is more than a canyon. It is a hidden universe, a reminder that even today there are corners of the earth so vast and secret that they remain beyond full human understanding. In the deserts of Ningxia, where the Yellow River winds like a ribbon of silver through sand and stone, lies Shapato. This hidden oasis balances between desert and water, its dunes glowing gold while the river shimmers beside them. For centuries, caravans paused here, resting under willows before venturing deeper into the Gobi. Today, the sand still sings when the wind shifts, its grains producing a low hum that echoes across the emptiness. At dusk, camels leave long shadows on the dunes, and the sky burns crimson before fading into deep blue. Shapato remains largely quiet, overshadowed by the grandeur of larger deserts, yet its presence feels intimate, almost tender. It is a place where two worlds, desert and river, meet in fragile harmony, a hidden reminder that life persists even in the harshest landscapes. Traveling southeast into Anhui, another secret emerges, the village of Bishan. Once fading into obscurity, Bishan has found quiet revival, yet it remains hidden from most travelers. Narrow stone lanes wind between ancestral halls and old courtyards, their walls marked by centuries of sun and rain. Villagers still tend their fields, drying herbs in the courtyards and gathering each evening under ancient trees. What makes Bishan secret is the rhythm of its survival, the way old homes and traditions endure without spectacle. There are no crowds, no stages, only life carried forward in quiet continuity. At night, when lanterns glow softly against whitewashed walls and crickets sing in the fields, Bishan feels like a whisper from the past, unhurried and unbroken. In Yunnan's remote mountains lies another hidden world, the terraced fields of Yunyanyan. Though photographers have captured their sweeping beauty, the deeper terraces, far from main paths, remain secluded. At dawn, water-filled terraces reflect the sky in thousands of fragments, glowing pink and gold as the sun rises. The Hani people who carved these fields live in villages perched on ridges, their homes overlooking the endless layers below. Each terrace is a step in a story written across centuries, a collaboration between people and land so seamless it feels natural. Away from the few known viewpoints, the silence is overwhelming, broken only by the rustle of wind across the paddies and the calls of birds. Yunyang's secret lies in its immensity, a hidden wonder that stretches further than sight, sustained not by tourism but by the steady labor of those who live within it. Far north in Inner Mongolia lies another marvel, the Ar-Horkin grasslands. Unlike the rolling plains many imagine, these grasslands are dotted with forests, lakes, and wildflowers that turn the land into a shifting patchwork of color. Herds of horses gallop freely, their hooves drumming the earth like distant thunder. In summer, yurts rise across the land, smoke curling gently into the sky as families gather for festivals filled with song, wrestling, and archery. Yet beyond these gatherings, the grasslands are silent, endless, and almost dreamlike. To ride across them is to feel unmoored from time, carried only by the rhythm of wind and hoofbeats. The Ar-Horkin remain hidden because they ask nothing of visitors. They exist simply, expansively, waiting with quiet dignity. In Tibet's east, tucked deep within forests, lies Rawak Lake. Snow peaks rise directly from its turquoise waters, their reflections mirrored with startling clarity. The silence of the lake is immense, interrupted only by the occasional ripple of fish or the call of a bird. Local Tibetans see Rawak as sacred, its waters imbued with blessings, and they walk its shores with prayer wheels in hand, chanting softly as they move. The lake is difficult to reach, lying far from main roads, and so it remains untouched by crowds. To sit by its edge is to feel held between two worlds, the fierce stillness of the mountains above and the tender calm of the water below. Few places carry such quiet power, and fewer still keep it hidden with such grace. And in the forests of Guizhou lies another secret, the genuine Black Dragon Cave. Perched on cliffs above the Weiyang River, this Taoist complex weaves temples, pavilions, and caves into a seamless whole. Stone steps climb steeply, passing through gateways into courtyards where silence lingers. From high above, the river bends gracefully below, its waters reflecting the cliffs and forests. Few visitors wander this far, and those who do often find themselves alone, listening to the sound of wind against old beams, the faint creak of wood that has endured for centuries. The Black Dragon Cave is not grand, yet its presence is profound, a hidden sanctuary of devotion and patience. It feels less like a monument and more like a conversation between stone, water, and faith, preserved in quiet dignity. High in the far north of Xinjiang, where mountains give way to alpine valleys, lies Heimu Village, a settlement that seems untouched by time. Wooden log houses, darkened by weather, cluster along meadows where rivers gleam under the sun. In autumn, birch forests surrounding the village turn gold, creating a scene so serene it feels like a painting. The Tuvan people who live here herd horses and cattle, their lives tied closely to the rhythms of the land. Few outsiders reach Heimu, for the journey is long and the seasons unforgiving, but those who do often describe a stillness unlike any other, the quiet of smoke rising from chimneys at dawn, of children playing in the grass while mountains stand as silent guardians. Heimu's secret lies in its endurance, a way of life preserved in simplicity, shielded by remoteness and silence. Far to the southeast in Fujian lies another hidden wonder, the Gulangyu Island. While many know it as a quiet retreat near Xiamen, its deepest secrets remain in the winding alleys and abandoned mansions left behind by merchants and diplomats a century ago. The island carries whispers of East and West, where colonial villas sit side by side with traditional homes, their walls now softened by moss and salt air. No cars are allowed, so only footsteps and the distant sound of pianos fill the streets. At sunset, the sea glows against stone piers and lanterns flicker in doorways. Though Gulangyu has visitors, its quieter corners remain hidden, places where ivy climbs over forgotten gates and the air carries the scent of the ocean mixed with history. It is an island of secrets where memory and silence coexist. In the deserts of Inner Mongolia lies Ijina Banner, home to the ancient populous Euphratica forest. Each autumn, these hardy trees, survivors of arid winds and scarce water, blaze gold against the deep blue of desert skies. Their twisted trunks stand like sculptures, defiant and eternal. The forest is small compared to endless dunes, but its presence is powerful, a reminder of resilience in the harshest of environments. When the wind blows, golden leaves scatter across the sand like fire, and the desert itself seems transformed. Few people reach Egina, but those who do speak of the strange combination of fragility and endurance the forest embodies. It is a hidden treasure in plain sight, its survival itself the greatest wonder. In Hunan, concealed within green valleys, lies Hongjiang, ancient commercial town. Once a bustling hub for merchants trading wood, opium, and tea, it is now a labyrinth of stone lanes and timbered houses resting in silence. The town's courtyards, guild halls, and ancestral halls remain intact, their wooden carvings still sharp despite centuries of weather. Wandering through, you hear only the echo of your footsteps, as though the voices of traders have not yet fully departed. The river beside it flows steadily, carrying the memory of barges that once brought wealth and stories from afar. Few outsiders know of Hongjiang, overshadowed by other ancient towns, but its silence preserves something more, an atmosphere of waiting, of history paused, ready to be rediscovered. In Sichuan, hidden among towering cliffs, lies Mount Sigunyang, the Four Sisters Mountain. While climbers know its snow peaks, the valleys below hold secrets few explore. Alpine meadows bloom with wildflowers in summer, streams tumble over mossy stones, and forests rise dense and fragrant. Local Tibetans tell legends of the Four Peaks, said to be sisters transformed into guardians of the land. Away from the main routes, the mountain feels untouched, its valleys hushed except for the sound of wind in the pines. The snow peaks loom above, remote and untamed, reminding you that the mountain holds more than it reveals. Sigunyang's hiddenness lies in its breadth, a landscape too vast to be captured in any single view, too alive to ever be fully known. And in Tibet's northern plains lies Namtso's quieter companion, Selinko, the largest lake entirely within Tibet. Its waters stretch endlessly, reflecting skies that seem larger here than anywhere else. Few pilgrims circle this lake, fewer still sit by its shores in silence. The wind sweeps constantly, carrying the cries of wild birds and the faint sound of yaks moving across distant slopes. Selinko feels emptier, harsher than its better-known neighbors, yet in that harshness lies its secret. It is a lake that asks nothing and offers nothing but space, vast, open, infinite space that makes you confront your own smallness. To stand by Selinko is to feel both vulnerable and free, as if the world has stripped itself down to its most essential form: water, sky, and silence. In the deserts of Gansu, where the Hexi Corridor once carried endless caravans, lies Suoyang City, a ruin almost erased by shifting sands. Once a key stronghold of the Silk Road, it now rests in silence, its crumbling walls rising faintly from dunes that seem eager to reclaim them. Broken watchtowers stand like lonely sentinels, their outlines softened by centuries of wind. Walking through Suoyang, you feel the weight of transience. Streets that once bustled with traders now empty, gates that once welcomed travelers now opening only to the desert. Few make the long journey here, and fewer still linger, but those who do often leave with a sense of humility, reminded of how easily entire worlds can vanish into dust. Far south, in Guangxi's valleys, another secret reveals itself: the hidden village of Bama. Though its name has become linked to longevity, the truth of its hiddenness lies in the atmosphere itself. The rivers flow gently, the air carries a clarity rare in the modern world, and the people move at a pace unhurried by time. Wooden homes rest beneath karst cliffs, their walls adorned with herbs and drying crops, their courtyards filled with quiet laughter. Scientists search for explanations: mineral-rich water, diet, genetics, but perhaps the deeper secret lies in the way of life itself, woven into the stillness of the land. To sit by the river at dusk, watching the sky fade into soft violet while elders gather calmly under trees, is to understand that Bama's wonder is not only in years lived, but in the serenity with which they are lived. In Yunnan's rugged terrain lies another marvel, the stone forest of Shilin. While sections have become known, much of the forest remains hidden, stretching into remote valleys where limestone spires rise like petrified trees. The formations are sharp, jagged, and almost surreal, shaped by rain and wind across millions of years. Walking between them feels like moving through a labyrinth of stone, where shadows stretch long and silence holds steady. In deeper sections, caves open suddenly, revealing chambers glittering with mineral deposits. Legends of the Yi people speak of spirits dwelling here, their voices carried in the wind between the rocks. It is a place both beautiful and unsettling, a hidden wonder that feels less like landscape and more like a memory carved into the earth itself. In Fujian, tucked away beyond mountains, lies another secret world, the Tulu of Yongding. These vast, circular earthen buildings were constructed centuries ago as communal homes, their thick walls strong enough to withstand bandits and storms alike. From the outside, they appear as massive fortresses, but within lies a world of courtyards, kitchens, living quarters, and altars, alive with the hum of daily life. Some Tulu remain untouched by tourism, their inhabitants still gathering at dusk to cook together, their laughter rising against clay walls. To step inside is to feel protected, enclosed in a space designed not only for survival, but for community. These hidden villages remind us that wonder lies not only in landscapes but in the ingenuity of people who built harmony between themselves and the land. Far north in Heilongjiang lies a secret bound by ice, Lake Kangke, shared between China and Russia. Its waters stretch vast and shallow, filled with reeds where rare birds nest, including cranes that dance elegantly on the marshes. In winter, the lake freezes into a glittering expanse, while in summer, it teems with life, its wetlands buzzing with the calls of insects and birds. Few outsiders know of it, and even fewer visit, for it lies far from well-traveled paths. Yet Lake Kangke is one of the most important sanctuaries in Asia for migratory birds, a hidden heartbeat of life in a landscape that seems otherwise harsh and quiet. To stand on its shores at dawn, hearing the chorus of cranes rising into the sky, is to witness a secret rhythm older than nations, carried on wings across continents. And deep in Tibet, hidden among peaks and valleys, lies Shenan's Samding Monastery, unique in all of China for being led historically by female reincarnate lamas. Its halls are modest compared to the great monasteries of Lhasa, yet the presence it carries is profound. Prayer flags ripple in the mountain wind, and butter lamps glow softly in shadowed chambers, illuminating murals worn but vivid. Pilgrims arrive quietly, seeking blessings, their footsteps light upon the stone. What makes Samding hidden is not its obscurity, but its difference, a place where devotion is guided by a lineage that challenges expectation, where silence holds stories that remain untold. To stand within its courtyard is to feel both the fragility and the endurance of faith, preserved in quiet dignity high above the world. In the northern stretches of Xinjiang, where rivers carve their way through forests of larch and birch, lies the secret valley of Canis once more, but deeper into its hidden folds are places almost untouched by human presence. Small tributaries sparkle through mossy stones, and meadows open suddenly between ridges, filled with wild flowers that sway under the crisp alpine air. Herds of deer move silently here, their presence noticed only in fleeting shadows. These corners of Canis remain unseen even to most who reach the lake, held in secrecy by distance and difficulty. It is one of those rare places where the land feels alive in ways words cannot quite hold, where silence becomes its own language, and beauty is not displayed but hidden, waiting. Far east in Jiangsu lies another secretive wonder, the slender West Lake of Yangzhou. Though known to some, its truest beauty is hidden in the quiet hours, at dawn or dusk, when mist drifts across the water and old pavilions reflect like faded brushstrokes. Stone bridges arc gracefully, their reflections forming perfect circles while weeping willows bow into the water. In these hours, you feel you have stepped into a classical painting, a world created not by chance but by centuries of devotion to harmony. The lake is not vast, yet it feels infinite in its subtlety. Few visitors linger long enough to catch these moments, and so its greatest secret remains untouched, that its beauty lies not in spectacle but in stillness. In Yunnan's hidden ridges lies another wonder, Puda Quo National Park, where lakes, forests, and meadows create a mosaic of life, unlike anywhere else in China. The water is so pure that reflections of clouds seem sharper than the sky itself, and the forests ring with the songs of rare birds. Prayer flags hang in quiet corners, fluttering above meadows where yaks graze. To wander here is to feel caught between earth and sky, in a place that feels both vast and intimate. Puda Quo remains hidden not by obscurity, but by distance, its beauty reserved for those willing to travel far. And when you reach it, you realize the journey itself was part of the secret, that some wonders reveal themselves only to those patient enough to seek them. In Tibet's upper reaches lies the holy valley of Gyantsé, guarded by its fortress that rises from the hill like a stone crown. Below, the town unfolds in quiet rhythm, its monasteries filled with murals that glow with colors centuries old. Few visitors pause here, drawn instead to Lhasa or Shigatse, but Gyantsé holds its own presence, a stillness that feels deeply human. Farmers still tend their fields with wooden plows, pilgrims still walk the Kora around monasteries, and the fortress itself stands as a silent sentinel of endurance. Gyantsé's secret lies in its modesty, a reminder that wonder need not shout. Sometimes it waits in the quiet corners of valleys, where life continues with grace, unbroken. And finally, in the deserts of western China, the silence deepens at Lop Nur, the vanished lake that once supported kingdoms now buried in dust. Standing here at the end of our journey, you realize the pattern, that hidden wonders are not always dramatic or grand. Many are fragile, fleeting, or humble, carrying their power not in size but in persistence. They remind us that beauty often chooses silence, waiting for those willing to listen. As the desert wind moves across the salt flats, carrying the faint memory of water that once was, you feel the presence of all the places we visited: mountains, lakes, villages, caves, deserts, each holding its secret, each whispering in its own voice. So as this journey through China's hidden places comes to a close, I hope you have felt what I have felt, that the world is far richer than the maps we follow, that wonder lies not only in the famous, but in the forgotten, not only in the crowded, but in the quiet. These places are not just destinations, but invitations to slow down, to notice, to remember that silence has its own kind of song. If you carry anything from this journey, let it be this: the world still holds secrets, and sometimes the greatest adventure is simply to seek them. Until the next story, thank you for walking this path with me.